order at 9:01 a.m. And if I can get everybody to please stand for the singing of our national anthem.
Oh, Canada, our home and native land, true patriot love, in all of us command. Cattle brasi ponti di sema Tony Sparrow di Century. We stand on God. Yeah, we stand on God. Stand on
Good morning, everybody. Welcome. There is a full house here today, and I apologize for the temperature. It's a little frosty in here, so you might want to keep on your coats. Are there any additions to the agenda this morning?
The administration has no additions this morning.
No additions? Is there a councillor that would like to adopt the agenda as presented? Councillor Gomana, all in favor? That is carried. Corrections or amendments to November 3rd, 2021 regular meeting of council minutes. May I get a motion to adopt the November 3rd, 2021 regular meeting of council minutes? Councillor McGee, all in favor? That is carried. So we're moving into our public hearings. I will declare this public hearing 5.1 Combative Sports Commission Bylaw 2021-12C open at 9:04 a.m. So this morning we have the Combative Sports Commission Bylaw 2021-12C. Present we have council, administration, and members at large here today. The purpose of the public hearing is to receive comments, concerns, and questions from the public regarding the proposed Combative Sports Commission Bylaw 2021-12C. The first reading was approved on October 6, 2021. Therefore, the Combative Sports Commission Bylaw 2021-12C is hereby being presented to council for the second and third reading. The approval of the Combative Sports Commission Bylaw 2021-12C will automatically repeal Bylaw 2003-07C. The background of this: in order for organizations or groups to host mixed martial arts events in Drayton Valley, it is necessary for the town of Drayton Valley to pass a bylaw allowing these types of events to take place. The commission would be responsible to supervise, regulate, govern, and control all bouts of contests held in connection with the regulated sports. This includes being responsible for the provision of medical, police, referees, judges, officials, and supervisory personnel as deemed necessary. Should Bylaw 2021-12C receive second and third readings, the following steps will be undertaken: council appointing individuals to the commission's approving a promoter, and the commission's approving a date and location. Town administration provided a statement of opinion from the town's legal counsel and insurance provider. These statements outlined information specific to the liability being placed on the town and its officers. Additionally, the town's insurance provider has indicated that a separate insurance policy would be required to provide insurance for the commission. I will call for any comments from the floor. Brad, did you want to come up to the podium? Yes, please. Thank you. Good morning. Is there the light on the mic there? Is it green?
It is now.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
So first thing I want to do is, as always, thank you for your time. One of the things that we want to make sure that we did in between last meeting and today is try to address as many of the concerns, the fair concerns that you had. There was a comment, if you can go to the public and get 30, 50 signatures of support, that would be fantastic. So last week, I gave everybody 72 hours to do a quick survey, started a free survey on Formstack, and within the first 2 or 3 hours, we had over 100 signatures. It was a free survey, so it caps at 100. So people were telling me, okay, we did it, here we go, and I couldn't collect more signatures. So I had to download those, restart it. So it's a little inaccurate, but we have over 170 signatures of support, which I will, you'll have the electronic file as well. So we just want to show, first off, there's a buzz in town. There's not many places I can go right now without people talking about this. People are excited. And then of course we address some liability side, I guess privately with you, we address through email and stuff. So I just want to address that. Seems like there's a lot of support from the town. We've got some fantastic people lined up for the potential commission and a lot of support from the community, the MMA community. Before I wrap this up, I want to, the sheet that you just got, as well as in your email package, specifically is number signature 83. And this is a big deal. So this comes from Bill Mahood of an international MMA organization. So I will provide his quick words from the survey results. He's the president of the Canadian Combat Alliance. The CCA is a nonprofit amateur sports organization dedicated to the advancement of amateur MMA in Canada. The CCA is a national member body of the International Mixed Martial Arts Federation, or IMAF. The CCA, through its international governing body, sends amateur athletes around the world to compete in IMAF-sanctioned events. One is coming up in January. They haven't been able to do it for 2 years because of COVID, but it's in Dubai. So it's a big deal. The CCA would be interested in hosting both provincial and national level events in Drayton Valley if the commission were to be formed. So that's a powerful piece. Currently, there's only one other commission in Canada, to the best of my knowledge, where these athletes are able to qualify through, and it's through Lethbridge. And we have the president of this national governing body saying, you know what, let's make Drayton Valley the hub. This is basically the Olympics of mixed martial arts. So I just wanted to bring that up. It's kind of a big deal. So yeah, it's Q&A, or I can sit down. I just wanted to address those because I think that's kind of that's a spark. That's a very interesting piece that we could start hosting, national events, and they're televised, streamed now, before I age myself. But you've got your logos in the background, Drayton Valley and our venues and our businesses.
Thank you very much for that.
You're welcome. Questions?
I don't think we can do questions in the
Perfect.
public hearing.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for that. I appreciate that. Is there anyone online No. I will call for comments or written submissions.
We have not received any written submissions.
Thank you. I will declare the public meeting closed at 9:11 a.m. And we'll move into our second public hearing. I will declare public hearing open at 9:12 a.m. This is for development permit DV 21-057, discretionary use at 5621 58th Avenue. Those that are present today for the public hearing are myself, administration, council, and members of the community. The purpose of the public hearing is to receive comments, concerns, and questions from the public regarding the proposed discretionary micro-cultivation of cannabis. The background for this is the town of Drayton Valley received a development permit application DV 21-057 for the micro-cultivation of cannabis in two 40 by 8 feet grow pods. The grow pods will be in an existing building located at 5621 58th Ave. In accordance with the Town of Drayton Valley Land Use Bylaw 2020-12D, micro-cultivation of cannabis is defined as cannabis processing micro. The subject parcel is located within the CGen Commercial General District of the Land Use Bylaw, in which cannabis processing micro is listed as discretionary. Cannabis processing micro means a use as licensed by Health Canada where A, cannabis is grown or harvested, and the surface of the plant canopy does not exceed 200 meters squared but does not include cannabis retail, or B, a maximum of 600 kilograms of dried cannabis product per year and processed, manufactured, packaged, and labeled or stored on site, but does not include cannabis retail. A decision to approve or deny this application will be made by council. Depending upon the comments received at this public hearing, notification of the discretionary use, requesting comments from the public, and advising them of the public hearing has been provided in accordance with the Town of Drayton Valley Bylaw 2018-07A, Electronic Advertising Bylaw. To facilitate the public hearing process, any comments received, written or verbal, will be presented as a package at the time of the public hearing. So now I will call for comments from the floor. Is there anyone online? Farrell? Good morning.
Morning.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Nice to see your lovely face here again.
My name is Farrell Wheeler. I'm here on behalf of Noble Growth Corp, and we are supportive of the project. So we don't know a lot about it, but supportive of the industry and other people developing it in our community. So we just had to state that.
Well, thank you very much. Nice to see your support. Is there anyone online? I'll call for comments or written submissions.
We have not received any written submissions.
Thank you. I will then declare the public hearing closed at 9:15 a.m. Okay, we will now move into 6.1, our delegations. Our first delegation is 6.1 Drayton Valley RCMP Stats, October 2021. Staff Sergeant Aaron Matthews. Oh, there you are behind there. I couldn't see you. Please come down to the podium. Good morning and welcome.
Morning to all of you. It is a little today.
It is really cold. My teeth are chattering.
So yeah, with regards to the stats, again, if you take a look at the crime gauge that was provided, that runs from January to October. So I prefer to just focus on the month of October because things can be a little skewed by looking at the crime gauge when it's running from January to October. So in October, you would have found that if you looked at the actuals for October, there was certainly an increase in thefts of motor vehicles, attempted thefts of motor vehicles from the previous year. It went from 4 in 2020 in October up to 16. 5 of those 16 were attempted thefts. We had, the rest of them were completed. One was a trailer. One is still outstanding, and the rest of the vehicles have been recovered in various locations: Breton, Mataska, Rocky Mountain House, Parkland, and Drayton Valley. But we are looking at various ways that we can curb that. Makes it difficult. Most of our prolific vehicle thieves are presently out, but we have some things that we're working on to try and get that under control. Possession of stolen goods increased from 4 to 7. On October 21st, we were on patrol, located a stolen vehicle. 2 individuals were arrested and charged on that one for possession of stolen property. On October 28th, we were cruising around and we found another stolen vehicle, of which the owner did not want police involvement, so they just came and picked up the vehicle. And on October 28th, just later on in the day, we were on patrol and located another vehicle stolen, along with a trailer. Driver and passenger were both arrested, and we found a loaded shotgun located in the back seat. So the male has since been sent to remand for that, and the female is on house arrest. So mischief and damage to property. We saw an increase from 11 to 18. A lot of those were vehicles that were broken into. Again, when we actually do the statistics, or when we score things, if a vehicle has been tampered with, the door handle taken off, that gets scored as a mischief. Whereas if they go further and they start tampering with the ignition, then that would be an attempted theft of vehicle. So, so we had some vehicles broken into, damaged in the parking lot. We had some reports of damaged doors at El Dorado. We located the youth there, but there was no damage. We had one report of a guy trying to steal a vehicle, but apparently he'd locked his keys in it. And some arguments and such. Mischief, other mischiefs, we had included suspicious persons, suspicious vehicles, that sort of thing. We had 3 reports of intoxicated males and 1 report of youth on the roof. The rest were basically suspicious persons and vehicles. And then we saw a big increase in other provincial statutes. A lot of those were noise complaints, animal locked in a vehicle, custody, property separation issues, landlord-tenant issues, those type of things. And numerous trespass act, which is, you know, right now, it was getting colder in October, so we have people sleeping in vestibules of banks, stairwells, and that sort of thing, until the MAT program actually gets up and running. And our theft unders, again, we saw a bit of an increase there. We had some thefts of gas, thefts of license plates, batteries, one theft of a catalytic converter, which seems to be an ongoing trend right now, pretty much everywhere. Attempted theft of a trailer. The person was actually in the trailer when they were trying to steal it, so he's kind of scared them off, which was good. Shoplifting and that sort of thing. So for the most part, we're on norm for everything as compared to previous years. But those were the main ones that we actually saw an increase in. We did have a 1029 mental health act calls, and we did transport 2 to Pinoca. So, yeah, that is it in a nutshell.
Well, thank you very much for that. Are there any questions for Staff Sergeant Matthews this morning? Councillor McGee, Deputy Mayor McGee.
Thank you, Your Worship. Sergeant Matthews, I'm going to premise my question, and perhaps I should have given you some lead time, but I think it'll be all right. Just on the weekend, I was watching 60 Minutes, and 60 Minutes was doing a thing to do with the number of people that are being killed under the Mental Health Act. And so the whole idea and the premises behind it was that they're triaging. So it's a 911 call. They triage saying, do you need a social worker? Do you need a member? And so the other part of the premise is if you need a social worker, you don't need to take a gun. So what they're finding is that clearly finding that there are a lot less people being killed because they're of the triage. And so in my mind, I was thinking, as I read the Free Press, and you and I have had discussions over that, I was thinking, so when a call comes into you, could you tell me how that actually works? Are we phoning, and then we get the somewhere else, and then so do they triage it in there, and is there abilities to do that? Because I just see so much work being done that doesn't seem to be your work.
That's very true in a lot of things, but when it comes down to the mental health, and that's one of the reasons why I'm trying to advocate so strongly to get this PAC team, because that person is the mental health. I mean, we would be riding with a mental health professional in order to be able to deal with those in the appropriate manner. Right now, there is no triage in place. Basically, they just call and we respond. Now, our officers are as trained as they can be, but we are not mental health professionals by any means, or social workers. And given the fact that I don't believe that we have enough support services in the town of Drayton Valley in order to be able to effectively triage. That's, again, the reason why I am pushing so strongly for this PAC team, so that we can be dealing with the mental health issues and putting them with the proper supports that they actually need, rather than us, determining what they need when don't know really, and making sure that they are getting the help that they require. So that is the main premise of trying to get the RPAC team in place.
Well, and when we were in at the AUMA convention, of course, the ministers are in front, and the questions are coming from the politicians. And on Thursday and Friday, the RMA, the rural people folks, are getting together, and so Monica and I and Bill are going to be at that convention, and there is an opportunity to raise that, and it does get raised. But I think we can push it just a wee bit harder with the province to say that this is what's happening now. The way I would raise it here is that in 2019 you had 28 mental health calls, 2020 you had 23, 2021 we had 57, and you just now said you had how many? So what I'm thinking about the number today of mental health calls, would I say it's doubled or tripled?
At least, yes. Yeah.
So,
and a lot of those could be drug induced, definitely. Many of them are not. But either way, whether they're drug induced or not, these people still need some kind of help. You can't respond to something and because somebody believes they're suffering some kind of psychosis, and they believe strongly that there's people living underneath their house. They truly believe that. I mean, but I hate the thought of us just saying, well, there's nobody here, bye. Right? We're not being able to provide them any further support or get them any kind of extra help, because just based on us. So that's, again, and I'm not sure if Councillor Ballas had provided you with that letter and the briefing note for signatures with regards to the RPAC, but yes, it kind of describes everything that has been going on and the major increase that we have been seeing. And I mean, we need help dealing with it, and the people that we are dealing with need help. And we need to be able to provide them with the proper supports so that they can get better.
So lastly, K Division is also there, and they meet with whoever that books some time with them, but they also walk the hallways. And so it might be good to know whether or not the conversation that we have is with K Division or is it with the Minister of Justice or both?
Everybody. The conversation certainly with K Division. And also, I think the Minister of Health and the Minister of Justice. Yeah, because those are all very important key components of us getting help. Presently, they've assigned, K Division has assigned a rural PAC team that will be working out of Rocky Mountain House, but they're working out of Rocky Mountain House and covering Sylvan Lake, Rimbey, Drayton Valley, Black Falls, all the way over to Lake Louise. So basically, it's such a large area that for us to probably even see them or get them to help us is going to be slim to none. Whereas what we're trying to do is have Evansburg, Drayton Valley, and Breton Thorsby, a much smaller area that is definitely a PAC team would be able to cover.
Thank you.
Good,
Madam Mayor.
thank you. Are there any other questions? Just one last question. Do you feel that it's progressed at all, like the PAC team, since kind of where I left? I know there was discussions that there would be mental health support at the hospital. There was supposed to be somebody coming aboard. Has that happened yet?
That has not happened yet, no. Not sure where that was. I think they put out the advertisement for it, but I'm not sure what the results of that were.
Okay.
I know that we were supposed to have a meeting with the associate minister on the 26th, and that's been moved till to December 3rd now. So we will be speaking with them and trying to get this ball rolling.
You said December 6th
December 3rd.
or December 3rd?
It's at 10:30. I can send you the
Yeah,
information.
if you could, please.
Yep.
Yeah, sure. I'd like to come along to that.
Yeah, definitely.
For sure. Deputy Mayor?
And the Associate Minister of Health or Justice?
Help.
Perfect. Thank you. If there's no other questions, thank you very much for your update today. Stay warm.
Thank you very much. Have a great day.
You too. Have a great day. Thank you. So moving on to 6.2, Drayton Valley and District Slow Pitch Society, Keela Zorn. Thank you for coming this morning. Good morning. Good morning.
My name's Keela, and I recently joined the Slow Pitch Committee, and I am the secretary. And I've been doing quite a bit of work in the past 2 months. First and foremost, the reason I'm here is because our facilities are so underdeveloped, and we were requesting funding to upgrade the facility. We have already met with the county and they've provided very promising assistance. In fact, Kara Westerland has been our kind of liaison with administration and has actually assisted in quite a bit of communication from myself and my board members. And in fact, just as of yesterday, I received a confirmation letter from Lee Chambers stating that they are interested in providing $56,000 towards our matching grant for the CFEP grant. So today I am requesting a formal administration meeting with the town to discuss the town's portion of that funding match. So I did send the letter from the county to Cora yesterday, because I just literally got it yesterday from Lee. So I'm not sure if you've had a chance to read it. I can forward it again after the meeting. But just to kind of break down what we're requesting for. So specifically bear and animal proof garbage recycling bins. It's a huge issue with the homeless, as well as just, maintaining cleanliness and keeping animals at bay. Also the funding eventually will bite off smaller bites to get everything accomplished. But right now, our main focus is the garbage containers. Shale is a huge issue for us because when the diamonds were originally engineered, they weren't properly completed. We literally had volunteers come and do the work. We didn't have like specialized people come and actually build the diamonds. So it's just, we're just kind of keeping it at bay, really. Another thing that is of concern is that we don't have like a paved access to our diamonds. It's gravel. So there's been, and it's, if you've been there, you'll see that there's like an incline, there's banks. So people have actually tripped and fallen and hurt themselves. So it's more or less a safety concern at this point as well. Something we've discussed as a board is paved parking. You know, that's kind of like a pipe dream. We understand it costs a lot of money, but it'd be a lot nicer if we had a paved parking lot. A lot of our items at the diamonds aren't affixed because we don't have a proper lease with the county, but that is something that we're working on right now. We've received a draft lease agreement from the county, and myself and my board members are reviewing it to finalize it to get that completed. So once we have a fully understand, like we can understand exactly what we're to do and our responsibilities and the town and the county's responsibilities, then we'll be able to like permanently affix, you know, the dugouts or anything that we feel like we can stay there so we don't have to remove anything. So with that said, all of our dugouts are movable. Nothing is lifetime. So they were just kind of cheaply made and now they're falling apart. So that's something that we're looking at getting replaced. And when I did send the delegation request, I did send like my list of all of the estimates of the things that it costs. And again, like these are just this is just our research. It's nothing, you know, firm, but it's just what we found quickly to provide like an estimate of what things cost. So in my breakdown, I do have kind of an idea of what things cost. Another thing that we're lacking is more sitting areas like picnic tables and benches. And again, I've provided estimates for those as well. Backstops and sunshades are a huge concern for safety just because our backstops are kind of too short. So when we have foul balls, they're hitting the bleachers as well as sunshades. So there's two diamonds that in the evening when you're playing, the sun is directly in your eyes and there has been injuries. So a sunshade is required to kind of eliminate a lot of those injuries. When I talk about the shelter area, it is my understanding that collectively the town and the county applied for the grant to build the existing washroom facility and concession. And so it was really only the town and the county's administration departments determining where that building was to go and like the quality of the materials, the, you know, the full design. Like a lot of that was discussed amongst council and administration, and it wasn't really brought to our association. So it's my understanding that the Drayton Valley Slow Pitch League won't really ever make use of that facility because of the location and the size. So as well as soccer wouldn't be using it because it's just the location itself. So for example, if you're playing, you don't have time to, I know it sounds ridiculous, but 200 meters to go use the washroom in between an inning, as well as like say a 4-year-old on the soccer pitch running 200 meters to go to the bathroom. They'll just use their porta potties as do we. So this is a monthly cost for us because our facility, our porta potties are right in the center and it's just that quick, easy access. So when I spoke to administration here just a month ago and when we chatted, I mean, too little too late, of course, but our preference would have been just a cheaper facility in our location for washroom facilities, literally just a shelter, maybe a little kitchen for a concession, and then soccer would have their own little facility, like half the cost, like split the cost. Because I was told that that building costs like $450,000. And I mean, we've done our own research and what things cost, and we could have built one for 100,000 for what we needed it for. So long story short, unless we're forced to, I don't think we'll ever use that facility. And in fact, Mike Frost, who runs the biggest slow pitch tournament in Drayton Valley, has told me he would never use it. So unfortunately, he rents washrooms for his tournament. He has barbecues for his own concessions. So like, we don't make use of that facility. The only thing that we do use it for is simply just winter storage. And Sheldon, who's here today, is our maintenance groundkeeper, and he's also on the board. He's been working that diamond for the past 10 years, volunteering his time like 10 to 20 hours a week to maintain like what we have now. And at this point, we're fed up with just limping along. So we're trying to push towards, you know, getting funding and actually going through with maintaining the diamonds properly. So that's a huge concern as well. And then another idea that we have as a board is to develop eventually a playground. We don't have a problem showing initiative and trying to fundraise for our own board. We are kind of between a rock and a hard place, given that we're an adult sports teams. Like we're not children, so people are a lot less likely to want to donate to an adult function. So what we've shown as initiative actually is Sheldon's doing a fundraiser, a personal fundraiser, and we're trying to gain momentum and traction on just letting the public know that we are in need of money, and we're showing that we're doing like what we can do and to get money for that. And other issues that we are going to be dealing with the county will be like utility costs and drainage and irrigation and everything like that. So I'm not entirely sure what the town has in any involvement for that, but I'm sure it will be dealt with in the lease of the county. And another thing, just a quick concern, was when we do host tournaments, a lot of out of town comments have been, we can't find you, we can't find the park. And so like Google Maps, for example, just won't show up. And I know there's like little signs that say Brazeau Sports Park, but like it's not, I think it's only on the north side of town. I don't think it's on the south side of town, where a lot of other out of towners come as well. So I think that's kind of what I've had to say. I know you can't ask questions, so just trying to remember if there's anything else.
Oh, we can ask questions.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much for that. I will open it up for any questions. Councilor Gumana?
Thank you. That was very comprehensive, and thank you very much for bringing this to us. Just for my understanding, hopefully for the rest of the council's understanding. So the ask here is that for the matching funds, right? So when I go through this, there are a few items and some items that's big in cost as well, right? So so for today's ask from the council is for the matching funds. That's kind of well done.
Yeah, and if I need to sit down with administration to discuss in further detail, then I'm asking for a sit down with administration.
Perfect. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
And the asking funds are 56,000?
Yes. So it's my understanding that the CFEP is 120 or 125. Okay. And so the county is willing to pitch the 56 and suggest that we ask the difference in order to request the grant.
Deputy Mayor, did you have a question?
I do have, thanks for coming. Ian, it's funny when you just join a group and then you become the secretary and the spokesperson. It's great. It's good. It's good for you to be up here asking those questions. And quite frankly, in 1980, I was asking the same questions of the council members too, and we've come a long ways in our ball diamonds and things like that. But what came to mind as I was looking through the list is that the match, so we get 125 and 56 and 56, that gives us that much, but it's nowhere near what's the end result of, and I didn't do my homework and add up all the numbers, but do you have an idea of what the complete sort of?
$1 million.
It's $1 million.
Yeah.
All right. Okay.
So we're just biting off little pieces and little
Yeah.
chunks.
Mhm.
So it was my understanding that to go for the full million would be obviously a hard bargain. So that's why we're starting off kind of just little, and then just kind of get like the fires put out, like what we need done, like shale and garbages. So that's like our main focus right now. And then we'll move on to the next things like backstops and dugouts and.
Right, and so that's what I was also going to get to, is that if we match, that's $250,000. Our intention from the Slow Pitch League is for 250, we are going to do shale.
Yep, shale. Shale right now, to get it up to spec, we need about 200 tons, and that's like $32,000. And then every year thereafter, about 100 tons. So we're talking like 16 just every year till it's completed. The garbage in recycling bins approximately are about $24,000. So we need 2 at each diamond, 1 on each dugout. And then the county advised that they are going to be talking about having Public Works empty the garbage bins for us. I mean, we can bring it to the bin, but actually them taking care of the garbages, because as you know, the homeless are around that area and they make quite a mess for us in our dugouts as well as in our garbage bins. And they steal our recycling, so we can't even take it to the recycling bins because they take them. And then the dugouts, we would need 8 as well. Those are around $50,000. We got a quote for the paved access, and that's $155,000. We got a quote for the paved parking. And
Right,
that's,
but so on 250,
yeah,
you're going to see this next year. You're going to see some new shale, the new garbage bins, and so if you're reporting back to your board, that's the report you would say. Here we go, 250. We get this.
yeah. We would start obviously with what we need to work on initially, and then we would just divide and see, okay, do we have the money for this? Like, yeah, we kind of go from a priority list in terms of disperse the money which way we can.
Yep. Okay. That's very helpful. Thanks very much. Thanks for coming.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other questions? No, well, thank you very much. I love your drive. And just, I guess maybe just one last question. How was the ball season this year, and what are you forecasting for next year? Has there been a significant reduction or anything due to COVID?
Yes.
Oh, there has.
Start until June. Yeah, our league normally starts in May, and we didn't start until June, so we missed a month. And because we missed a month, we had to reduce our fees, our league fees. So we lost revenue for that. And then additionally, because our diamonds are so poorly built, I don't want to say maintained, we lost a lot of days just from rain. We're unable to play if it rains. And I personally play in other cities, and I understand that apples to oranges, but rain or shine, you're playing. In Drayton Valley, it rains a day, you got to wait a day or two for that shale to dry, or you're not playing on it. So there's a lot of days a lot of makeup days or a lot of missed days. And so with that as well, a lot of teams don't want to play because they're getting their league cut short and then they're not even being able to play for what they do pay for. We actually did apply for a COVID relief grant, which is pending, but that's basically all we've been able to kind of Band-Aid that. I mean, obviously we hope to be able to start the season come May 1st. And I think a lot of the delay was the COVID restrictions. So, and then of course weather too. So depending on if it's dry enough to play.
And if you were to build up that shale, that would help then?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, do you want a little bit more detail about that? Because Sheldon has a great.
Oh, that's okay.
Okay.
How many members or players do you currently have?
I'd say like 200.
200?
Yeah, and both town and county residents.
Okay,
Yeah.
perfect.
Yeah.
Okay, well, thank you very much for coming today.
Okay. Thank you.
Take care. Enjoy the rest of your day. Okay, moving on to our third delegation, 6.3, Pembina Regional Aerodrome Association. Jerry, are you? There you are. Come on down to the podium, please.
Picture.
Thank
Okay,
you for
so-
coming.
So I'm Jerry Greiner. I'm the president of the Aerodrome Association. And I'm here with Corey.
My name is Corey Howard. I serve as the vice president. Just to give the new members of council some background, I'm also a captain on a 737 in addition to an assistant chief pilot in a major airline based out of Western Canada. So that's kind of a little bit of our background just to provide us with some, we'll use the term clout.
Yeah. So we're both pilots. We're both business owners in Drayton as well. There's a few things that I would just like to discuss, I guess. And I don't know which is the best way. This is a PowerPoint. Does it go through all the PowerPoint? Someone's running? Perfect. Okay. Okay, I will do that. Well, we'll just say next slide then. We'll start. Perfect. Over the summer, we had a lot of surveys here. It took some work to be able to get them here. They did aerial surveying most of the summer. There was a couple planes based here that weren't normally here. It took, I don't know how, some discussion, negotiation to get them to be based out of here. Ultimately, it did bring quite a few people here for over the summer, a couple crews. We had to do some things, drop some fuel prices. One reason that they came here, not that they came here, one thing they would have liked to have when they were here that they didn't have is a GPS approach so you can land in all weather. When they go out and do the surveys in the morning, they don't know what the weather's going to be like at night. And that was one of their concerns, and that is in the works. So for next year, we will have a GPS approach that they can land in. And then the other advantage of that GPS approach that they're going to be getting soon is not only people like that, but the ones that can fly in. Last year, there was a year and a half ago, Stars couldn't land. It was too bad, and there was an accident on the highway. They couldn't land. With this GPS approach, they would have been able to land, things like that. Because then you can land in, if it's cloudy or whatever. Right now, it's just current. If you can't see, you can't land. So that's one thing that's coming. So next slide. Oh. Okay, we talked a little bit. There's just the aerial surveys along. They brought 3 crews for 2 months. So around 70 hotel rooms got used. The nightly, just that one part brought quite a few additional people to town for the summer. Next slide. We did a aerials and air tour, and it was set up from one of the MLAs, Shane Getzing, and it was ultimately set up as a way to bring some business leaders around and show some of the different opportunities around. So there's quite a few different business leaders that came here, and a lot of you guys were out at the airport as well. So we incorporated. We did a breakfast, and we got lots of planes coming and going, and it was a good chance to have a lot of people to see our stuff. Some of the nice little planes that came out. That one's a cool one. That's a glider, a powered glider. Just a neat plane. Okay, next slide. There's a lot of pipelines surveys been going on here. TC Energy is another they're building a big pipeline. They've got about 1,500 people around town for the next year and a half now. they've been meeting at our airport in lots of their meetings at the building. They fly in from different places. There's a handful of them. It's not a big group, but around 6 or 8 of them will meet there. And they'll fly in. They like the central location. They can meet here. They've used the facilities several times, and they're going to be here for the next year and a half. And so the airport's getting used by companies like TC Energy, bringing, there's a lot of people in town for that. The RCMP have been using the airport for their plane as well. They do. Our officer isn't here, but they have planes, same as they have RCMP cars. They also have unmarked planes, and they've been doing some, I don't know what you call it, detective work. They come around here and do a bunch of detective work, and the next day you hear about some arrests. But they've been using the airport as well. And Weyerhaeuser as well spent about 3 weeks here with their plane doing I don't know what layered, it's like the land.
There's the forestry survey for Weyerhaeuser. That was the bulk of the survey work that was done specifically out of Drayton that was based here. So they flew around for a couple months and basically took pictures in forests, helped them establish, I'm not entirely too sure, but probably their growth plans and forest management data. So
Okay, next slide. Okay, here we got a couple of people. These are Synergy. Synergy is doing a lot of pipeline work around here, and they do pipeline surveys, and they've been based in the airport. And I've seen these guys there over and over. They spent a lot of nights at our airport with this company, but they're doing a lot of the pipelines. They fly, I think I forget how many. They said there's 2,600 pipelines that they flew over the summer for these guys using helicopters. And they were also, when we did the open house, they also came with this is the open house day actually. And they had a whole bunch of kids in their helicopter getting pictures, and the kids just loved that. So it was kind of neat. Next slide. You guys will remember there was big fires, shut down Highway 16 for a while in the summer. They based out of here to fight the fires for that. So they got these big helicopters, huge helicopters. It's hard to tell the size of that, but they're big. They're big. And they were using that for the firefighting around the Wildwood fire for a couple weeks. Next slide. When they come to town, it brings a lot of people here. Where this has brought 17 people because they have 2 helicopters, all their ground support staff, their mechanics, their planners, their bird dogs, and whatever they call it. But so there's 17 people for a couple of weeks here as well, supporting the town because they were able to come. So it was good. Plus, we got fires put out quicker that was affecting the highway. Next slide. This is at one of the flying breakfasts. We had there's an opportunity for some of the town and the county and some difference to put up some tents, sort of like a welcome to the area. And so that was just a welcome to Drayton Valley kind of thing that we did for some of the councillors. Next slide. We've got lots of compliments over the last year. The airport is looking a lot different and a lot better, and we hear that compliment all the time. It's come a long ways, and we hear that over and over by the people who've come and who see it. And so that was one thing. There's been a lot of changes, but some of the stuff you can just see, it's been upkept a lot more. There's still lots to do, no doubt, but it looks like someone's taking care of it, and we hear that compliment over and over. Next slide. Okay, our club, we're a Drayton Valley Flying Club in Pembina Regional Aerodrome Association, so the legal name. That's now, we're the legal operators for the airport on behalf of the town. And we're organized. We have an executive, meets regularly, does the planning, a formal operations committee to plan the stuff. Everybody on our team is all volunteers. So we do spend a lot of time, it's a lot of volunteer effort. And that gets done, and we got a pretty good system for planning and organizing and what we need to do, it seems. It seems to be working reasonably well. So that's that. Next slide. I guess in summary, we had nearly continuous use of the airfield. We were doing survey, RCMP, firefightings, things like that. So over the year, there was nearly continuous use. I know one thing, if you're not there, you don't see the planes very often. I guess you see some flying over every now and then. But if you spend a day there, you'll see there's a lot of planes in and out every day that you just, lots of them come and they they're not on the ground a long time. They're here dropping, picking up and whatever. So there's that. We've applied for some grants that aren't available for the town, and I forget what they're called, but we applied for one here to do some of the pavement repairs for next year. And I just forget the name of the grant, but anyhow, there's some of these grants that as a separate committee, we're able to apply for. So we've applied. So by next year, we should see if some of those grants, we should see the results of some of that coming in the next year. And the airport continues to bring new business and opportunities to Drayton Valley and the area. So, Corey, anything to add?
That's kind of our update. I think one of our big goals this year was to get some maybe more provincial recognition of our airport, and that's our town, and bring in the the economic benefits that are a result of that. Quite often with airports, they're not directly related. It's things like the hotels, the car rentals, the meals, the shopping, all of those extra things that are add-ons. And, for places like Solaris, Murphy to be able to come in and conduct business and move in and out and keep their operation plan going. So that's kind of us in a nutshell. We just wanted to provide that update with where we are. So I don't have anything else to add.
Well, thank you very much for that. Are there any questions? Deputy Mayor?
Good morning, gentlemen. It's good to have you here giving an update because if we're not out there, just as you said, Jerry, we're not out there, you don't see what's happening actually. So the three things come to my mind though is one is generally you can get some revenue from people touching and going or stopping and those kinds of things. I don't know. I think you manage that or we manage it. I don't know. I'd like to know a little bit about that. The other thing was about a flying school so that we can teach. The third thing was fuel. And I noticed in one part of the slide that you'd said that we kept the fuel costs at a reasonable price so that people could come and fuel. And then the last was mechanics. I understand there were some discussions with you can't fix things, but Wetaskiwin could, or those kinds of things. So just if you could just expand a bit on that.
Yeah, what was your first?
First one was the revenue. I don't know how that all works, but
so yes, landing fees can be a thing. They are not currently in place in Drayton Valley. We do see some of that at other airports. For instance, I believe Rocky Mountain House has an overnight tie down fee. Part of the kind of attraction or at the beginning of getting an airport moving is if we can keep the fees out of it essentially, then we can attract those people to come in, and that adds on to mechanics and a flight school. If my concern would be if we did integrate fees into it, we're actually probably would see a drop in business through the airport, and then we would also see that shrinkage in the ancillary revenue that spreads out to the other businesses in town. So it proves to be a challenge to have a direct revenue stream from the airport with a landing fee. I think really there the target would be, as you say, to attract a flight school, which with COVID has been a challenging year, of course, but and then that will bring its own kind of we'll use ecosystem as the term to start bringing and attracting other businesses. So this year was really a setup year for us to institute a GPS approach, which we haven't had here ever. I think there was a private approach at some time, maybe in the 70s. We don't really know. So that's kind of a new piece for us that will help hopefully drive some more traffic here to Drayton for us.
And fuel and mechanics.
Yeah, mechanics will be the same thing. With respect to fuel, we operate an avgas, so a piston aircraft engine fuel facility. We do not offer Jet A fuel, which is for jets and helicopters, or Jet B. Most helicopter companies that come through town will bring their own Jet B fuel systems. And then in terms of jet traffic, because we haven't had an approach or an instrument approach where we can fly in inclement weather into here, we don't typically see that level of aircraft come through. So it hasn't been, I think a jet fuel system, we're probably in the neighborhood of $100,000 to set up. I don't see the revenue return on that right now, so we haven't bothered to come and ask for something like that. We want to kind of grow grassroots up and not kind of reach too high right away and waste money, essentially.
As far as for the mechanics, you're right, we have been able to do a little bit of work here when they needed in just the hangars that we have. Some of the club members, it's like, we need a hangar to do some work, can we use your hangar? And it's worked for some. We don't have hangar space available to to rent for a mechanic, and there's not a mechanic. We haven't attracted a mechanic yet. And there's none that want to just come and put up their own hangar. We haven't been able to get that. So we've not been able to find a mechanic that'll come. We do have some mechanics that'll come for the day or whatever to do the work here, like from out of town, bring the truck. And we do have some of the facilities, like we're able to use some of just the club people's hangars, club owner hangars when that happens. But we don't have like a facility yet to do that. That will be coming soon, maybe not soon, but that is definitely being talked about. As far as the flying school, like I said, you had mentioned the flying school. The flying school brings in a lot of people, and it's got a whole ecosystem with it. Typically, the flying school will have the mechanics in this and as well to maintain the planes. And we have not, during COVID, we've had a hard time with that. And so it hasn't got a lot of traction yet.
I will point out, we do talk about COVID, and you've seen some of the other delegations here saying, it's really actually shrunk their, not just their revenue, but their participation. Actually, I think for us, it's been the opposite. It's been one of the busiest years for us at the airport in terms of community participation. A lot of people sitting around looking for something to do. So every picture you've seen on this slide has been at our airport. It's not some staged photo at another airport. It's community people coming in and attending some of our events, even though they're not really big, grandiose events. So we've been excited to see that and get the community engagement in the airport to say, hey, this is a thing, it's here, and we enjoy it. So,
Do you see the flight school taking off in 2022? Like, how do people find out about it? And
so part of our ask, so we recently went to the county, and we're getting some new lots added to the airport. So we've kind of adjusted the lines and rejigged the planning out there so that we can say, hey, we've got a spot for somebody to build. We're open for business. We want you to come here. So that's part of the attraction. It would be nice to, get economic development involved at some level. Really, this was a base year to kind of build a foundation so we could go out and reach for those stars in the future and not fumble too much. I can't give you a time commitment on a flight school. I think we're going to try our very best to make that happen. And that may include an ask from our club at some point for a public building to kick that off, or tax incentives, or rent incentive, or something like that to spur the beginnings of this system.
And is there a institute that comes in and would provide this, or who typically, provides the flight school training?
Flight school is a typical private enterprise, just like anybody else would have a business in town. The challenge for us would be, yes, the maintenance piece, which Jerry touched on, that they could bring their own in. The other piece would be, forgive me, I know Northwest pulled out, but who is the new?
Northern Lakes College?
So a lot of places have some sort of flight school attached to a college program. So if we can engage Northern Lights on something like that and establish a base for that, then we could be that area, because we are bringing in the GPS. We have a great runway. We have one of the largest private small town runways in the province. Not having that instrument approach procedure prior to has been a hamper. So we're hoping that kind of stuff brings in more business. We are not a busy piece of airspace. So, the arrivals from Vancouver, they show up kind of on the highway between Lodgepole and Drayton, and they're at typically about 20,000 feet. And we would operate out here at 10,000 and below. So we're not encumbered by airspace restrictions like Villeneuve is a busier place. And really then the thorn of Parkland County, which is a whole other topic we can talk about at some point. But we would hope to see maybe some of those places actually come out this way because of those reasons.
Thank you. Councillor Gavanna?
Thank you. Yeah, thank you very much for coming here and giving us an update. myself and my kids were on some of those flying in breakfast, and they loved it. They were in helicopters taking pictures with pilots, and awesome job that you guys are doing there. You mentioned about these GPS systems. First of all, if you could explain a little bit in layman terms what it
I'll
does.
explain it, because Corey flies these things too much,
Right.
and I don't fly them at all, so I understand them a little. I don't know, I understand them better, but I don't speak in the big terms. Basically, when the planes come in with a GPS approach, if you can't see, you have fixes in the sky, sort of like points in the sky. You cross this point at this elevation, this point at this elevation, this point at this elevation, and they're like a GPS coordinate in the sky. So it makes for a safe, if you fly in and you hit this and you hit this and you hit this, you're safe on your approach all the way down. It avoids all the obstacles. It avoids the different things. It even keeps us, the way it looks, it keeps us farther away from the town and Rocky Mountain House because of the angles that they're coming in at. Not Rocky Mountain, Rocky Rapids. And so basically they're points in the sky, and then you get down above the runway and it'll have a decision altitude where you can see, so instead of right now, you can't fly into here if it's over, if you have 1,000 feet or 1,200 feet of sky, you can't really fly. With that, you'll be able to fly. If the clouds are at 1,000 feet, it's probably no problem to come in because you can't see any of these. But on the GPS, you do know, I'm passing this fix, I'm passing this fix, I'm passing this fix. So all it is really, it's set up with points in the sky. It's kind of a big deal. It's all mapped out in the sky. It's registered with NAV Canada, and then they have to fly it and improve it. And then it's, as well, it's looked after by an engineering company ultimately that needs to make sure things like the tower that's not far off the runway or anything that could interfere with it. They monitor that on a continuous basis to make sure that it maintains safety. Does that make sense? You can say it probably in a lot different term.
It's basically for inclement weather. We can't obviously guarantee that we're going to have bright sunny days every day. So that really opens up our envelope of when can we have airport movements. So much like Jerry said, it's a highway in the sky that we can follow safely. That's probably the easiest way to put it.
Perfect. The other piece is that, when I had some discussions with you, Jerry, a while back, you mentioned that our airport actually is one of the backup airports for Edmonton if there's a emergency or something like that. So having this great airport that in our backyard, there are bigger pieces, like you said, the flying school and all of that. But is there other pieces that we can utilize the airport regularly and maybe generate some revenue? Do you think there are other, easier pieces that we can work on?
Yeah, I think, I've said it, you're probably getting sick of hearing it, but the GPS approach is really a big fundamental step in that direction. And we allocated money out of our budget for that to make that happen. So that will be in effect, I think, in May.
May 1st.
Yeah, maybe slightly sooner. So that's probably, these are the steps that we're taking to build on the foundation that we want. Right. That would be the first piece. The next piece, we're going to come and probably talk about infrastructure at some point. Are there any easy money grabs right now? Not that we could see. If we could, we'd be all over it. Absolutely. So when those do present themselves, we'll definitely be, it's in our best interest to make this airport more busy. We want to see that. We want the town to see that. So, we don't have any magic bullets right now, but maybe that's something where economic development could come in and help us plan some of that stuff.
Thank you. Thank you.
Any other questions? No? Well, thank you very much. There's lots of great things happening there, and I think it's wonderful to see such a passionate group leading this and taking it over. I'm excited to see where it goes in the future and any way that we can help with even the education piece, right? That's very exciting. That's something that we're very passionate about, and we have great partners at the table. So if there's a way we can be assisting, reach out to our administration and our economic development. Thank you very much for coming today.
Thank you. And thank you for your support over the last year and a bit since we've taken this over. It's been great.
Absolutely. It's great to hear. Take care. So before we move into our decision items, I will call a 10-minute break at 10:11 a.m. 10:26, and before we move on to our decision items, I would like to add an addition to the agenda. So I will need a motion from a counselor, just making a motion that we would like to add an addition. So is there a counselor that would like to make that motion? Okay, thank you very much, Counselor Evans. So do we need any sort of language, or is it just good that Rick made the motion to add an addition? Do I have to name the name of the addition?
I think you might want to name the addition for the motion.
Okay, and what am I naming?
Appointment of a permanent CAO.
Okay, appointment of a permanent CAO. So could you make the motion?
I'll make an addition to the agenda
Yes,
that we're going to announce the appointment of a new CAO.
perfect. I think that's good. Sabina, did you capture that? Okay, perfect. All in favor? And that is carried.
I sure hope so. But it could be introduced as a decision item? Yep.
Thank you. Good morning, Madam Mayor and esteemed council. I'll just read you my spiel here. Historically, when the town undertook the design and funding of upgrading our water treatment process from our old system, 3 projects were planned as part of a greater initiative to create a system that could deliver clean drinking water to our community with the capacity to grow as our population was forecasted to do so. The 3 projects were a raw water intake upgrade, new water treatment plant, and a distribution connection from the water treatment plant to the main town water grid with pre-designed PRVs, which are pressure reducing valves, that were to be constructed in conjunction with each other to achieve this goal. As of 2015, the new water treatment plant was commissioned, and as of 2019, the raw water intake upgrade was completed. To date, the PRV/water distribution connection project was deferred due to budgetary factors. Currently, the municipality's only method of delivering treated water to our residents rests through 4 small pumps located inside the reservoir building behind the hospital. These pumps are only meant to be a redundancy system in case the main distribution system, which is yet to be installed, fails for any particular reason. This summer, the utilities department was asked to have the reservoir pumps tested for vibration and remaining life cycle. The tests have showed that one is in critical condition with 1 more not far behind. So the financial implications, the cost of installing the 12 pre-designed PRVs connecting the water treatment plant to the main town water grid and rehabilitating the 4 reservoir pumps will be the cost of $1.3 million. If the project begins in the spring of 2022, if the town were to pursue this project during the winter of this year in an attempt to escalate it, the amount will be $1.4 million to allow for the increased time and effort needed to install this system during the frost. There is $475,000 in the water system capital reserve and $852,000 of available MSI funding to assist with this. The legal risk, though we have a fire pump for dire water emergencies, if the town is unable to maintain pressure in its water grid, the town will be mandated to be put into a boil water advisory for the whole town to protect its citizens due to possible water line infiltration of germs and bacteria. By upgrading our water system, it will help guarantee an efficient and well-maintained system with a proper redundancy measure in case there are logistic issues with the main feed to our town's water grid. This initiative will ensure a steady supply of water for our community for many years to come. Failure to have a redundancy system in place and have a system in good working order could impact the town's ability to service our community with treated water. Once the project is hopefully approved and tender awarded, administration will keep council and the public apprised of the project start date and any traffic service disruptions once construction begins. So I put this forward before council if you have any questions.
Thank you very much for that. Are there any questions? Deputy Mayor?
Councillor Sheriff was just asking about MSI. And we were having interesting discussions at the AUMA, provincially, all of the municipalities around their MSI funding. And I was saying to Councillor Sheriff that we distribute this and when we get our, and I think we're down 22%.
Around 60%. So they took our future pot and gave it to us early.
That's right.
So I just, Councillor McGee, I just did this cost breakdown to show what the potential could be to just soften the blow out of a reserve withdrawal. So, I mean, really, ultimately, it's up to council and how, if they wanted to proceed, how they would want to allocate from.
So this would eat up all the MSI.
About 73,000.
Do we know what projects we might defer because we're faced with this particular expenditure?
Yes, when it comes to budget deliberations, there are some other areas that I would probably push back a bit, or at least decrease the amount, just to try to make the focal point here and make it such a little bit more of a softer blow.
Councillor Manna?
Thank you. Thank you for bringing this forward. About the MSI funding, my understanding was that we allocated most of that funding towards the aquatic facility. So just not entirely clear about where the MSI funding, if there's any left. So future funding that we are looking at. Okay.
If I may, Madam Mayor and Council, we do have the possibility through AMWIP that has a potential of covering up to 40% of this cost.
Could you just tell us what AMWIP is?
Oh, I can't remember the abbreviation, Councillor Evan.
I got it for you.
Okay.
It's the Alberta Municipal Water and Wastewater Program, provincial grant funding program.
Thank you, Mr. Osmond. So they do a lot of like pilot studies, preliminary designs, but they have traditionally done and funded water distribution upgrades. So administration is pursuing that avenue because I mean, essentially possible 40% of 1.4 million, I think is absolutely worth it. Unfortunately, with a very short notice of information that came to me this morning, I would need a motion from council directing administration to pursue the funding. Reason being is because it's an actual parameter of the grant application itself for a denomination this large. So I am also kind of a last minute two-tier, a different ask is if I could get that motion so that we're able to follow the parameters so we can pursue that grant. And hopefully, fingers crossed, we could get some cushion in that regard. So.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Clark, did you have a question?
Yes, I did. Thank you. So just to be clear, the MSI isn't a use it or lose it sort of a thing. It rolls over to the next year, correct? Okay. So with the AMWIP possibly getting 40%, there's really no sense in terms of, doing it this, before the end of the year sort of thing, or even this winter. It's looking like it makes sense to do it spring, summer next year. Is that correct?
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Clark. It is definitely my recommendation and the utility department's recommendation that we do start in the spring. We do have a backup plan. It'll be interesting, but we can still maintain water, no doubt. But also too, with having 13 locations having to be dug up and essentially in the roadways, we won't be able to effectively patch those areas until paving time anyways. So it would work a little bit better if we could wait till spring. But of course, if council wants to accelerate this, administration absolutely can.
Perfect. Councillor Evans.
It makes sense to do all the underground work in the spring for the reasons you've listed. Do you feel that it would be a good idea, though, to address those pumps in that reservoir as soon as possible, so we're not relying on those iffy pumps?
Thank you, Councillor Evans. Yes, absolutely. I do feel it's very time sensitive in that regard. So if we were able to proceed immediately, because essentially a rebuild or a new pump, without that other thing discussed, we're 8 to 14 weeks away from the date of order or date of rebuild. So in that way, I feel it's time sensitive. But as for the PRVs and that, yes, I think spring would be best for construction.
Councillor Gumana?
Thank you. When we, did the site tour and all of that went to the water facility, we had few priorities, one being this, but we have priority on pumps as well, I believe, right? So is that going to be another item that's going to come in future, in near future? Where I'm trying to go with this is that, is this something that we should be deliberating during our budget discussions rather than, one by one like this? Because I don't know in your list of priorities, which one is the most priority and how much costs for that and this and the next one that's coming, right? So if you can shed some light on that and your thoughts on, thinking or discussing the whole priorities together versus one by one.
Thank you, Councillor Gumana. So you're talking with the wastewater distribution, like where the priority is internally, or are you talking the other infrastructure issues?
I'm talking as internally, where we discussed, there are a few priorities that we would like to tackle for the next coming year or so, right? So, and one being this, but there were concerns about the water distribution as well.
Right. So the pumps definitely, what I believe are definitely the priority, but also they work hand in hand of themselves. So the pumps are definitely the priority and the distribution being second. Administration thought it would be best to encompass it all, because instead of coming to council multiple times on essentially the same thing, if we can approve the whole overall project, then we can pick away, do it by triage with the more time critical things, essentially.
Any other questions? No. Okay. Is there a member of council that would like to make a motion? Councillor Evans.
I just need to make sure that I have the wording correct. So in regards to the other funding, the water funding, you need that in the motion?
I would need as a second motion or a separate motion if I could.
Okay. So I'll look to Rob here. The potential motion A is the one that I should be following, and then we'll make a second motion regarding there may be other funding available, and we'll pursue that. Is that correct?
That would be the process, yeah.
Okay. I'll make the motion that council approve the water distribution upgrade project using $475,000 from the Water Capital Reserve, $852,000 from the MSI fund, and the remaining $73,000 from town reserves.
Are there any comments, questions, or debate on the motion? No. All in favor? That is carried. And would you like to make an additional motion?
Sure, that administration apply for funding for this project through the
Alberta Municipal Water and Wastewater Program.
Through the Alberta Municipal Water and Wastewater Program.
Okay, thank you for that. Are there any comments, questions, or debate on the motion? Councillor Gumana.
Thank you. I'm wondering what is your expectation on funding, on grant funding on that? Is is it a kind of a matching grant or is it 40% of the? Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Oh, did you have a question? Okay, okay. Thank you for that. So there is a motion on the table and I will ask the question. All in favor? That is carried. Thank you very much for that.
Thank you, Council.
Moving on to decision item 7.2, DB 21057, cannabis processing micro, 5621 58th Ave. Good morning. How are you?
Morning, Your Worship. I'm good. How are you?
Good.
Morning, Council.
You get started?
Yeah, sure. So the town of Drayton Valley received a development permit application DV 21057 for the micro cultivation of cannabis, which is defined as cannabis processing micro in the town's land use bylaw. So the subject parcel at 5621 58th Avenue is shown in the zoning and immediate context maps in your agenda packages. So the parcel is zoned commercial general, where cannabis processing micro is discretionary. So meaning it's the decision to approve is at the discretion of council. So the proposed development, which you could see in attachment 3 of your agenda packages, is in an existing building with 2 pods, one of which will be used as a grow pod and the other as a support pod. So the support pod is where they will dry, trim, as well as package the plant. So these pods are made of repurposed shipping containers, which are equipped with technology that provides for controlled and contained indoor cultivation of cannabis. So the applicant is seeking development approval, which is required prior to obtaining a license to produce from Health Canada. The proposal fits the intent of the land uses in the area as visioned by the town's municipal development plan, as well as meets the site requirements as per section 4.3 of the land use bylaw. Therefore, administration supports the proposed development and is of the opinion that the development is appropriate for the noted location. And as per usual practice, the application was circulated to surrounding landowners within 60 meters of the subject property. It was advertised as well and circulated internally, as well as to external stakeholders for comments. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that. Are there any questions for administration? Deputy Mayor.
I noted in the comments on the where we had the public hearing that the maximum total amount for 1 year growth is 600 kilos. And I notice in here that they're producing approximately 50 kilos. Quite a difference between the two. What is it that are we expecting 50, but they could go to 600?
Thank you for the question, Councilor McGee. That is correct. So they could go up to as much as 600, but they will only start with 50 kilograms.
And when we think about the pods, that particular land would be able to take that many pods in order to get to 60. If 2 is going to give me 50, it's going to take me a lot more pods to get to 600. Is that land available to do that? Is there enough?
Thank you for the question, Councilor McGee. So as of right now, I think the maximum they could do in that space that they're allocated is 4 in total. So if they want to get to the 600 maximum, then they would have to accommodate those elsewhere.
Right, and reapply and those kinds of things. So the expectations is 50 kilos coming out of that particular set of pods.
That is correct.
Okay, thanks.
Councilor Clark?
Yes, thank you. So just to be clear, these are pods within a building, correct?
That is correct.
They're not just set out in some lay down yard somewhere.
No. they're in an existing building, so they share space with I believe it's Zinger Rentals. So they're in the same building but separate spaces.
And is there any like licensing or requirements from AGLC in regards to this this business?
Thank you for the question, Mayor Dodds. So AGLC does not get involved in the production of cannabis, but only on the retail side of things. So this is under the jurisdiction of Health Canada.
Okay, and are there under Health Canada, or is there any sort of permits or licensing or something that goes above the municipal?
That is correct. So prior to obtaining the license to produce from Health Canada, the applicant is required to obtain development approval from the municipality as well as a business license. So they're coming to us first for approval prior to going to Health Canada for a license.
Okay, and that's typically the process, is we would give the approval and then they would go to the.
That's correct.
Okay, gotcha. Councillor Cabana?
Thank you. Thank you. It's great to see that, you know, we have seen this industry building in our community, right? So my concern is that, you know, these pots that they're going to put there, we had, you know, sometimes concerned about the smell. So have these been implemented elsewhere? Do we have any data on that piece of side of things?
Thank you for the question, Councillor Gamana. So these pods, they're relatively new. So they come out of a company called Delta 9 in Winnipeg. So they have shipped a couple of them to other areas of the country, and so far I have not seen any concerns with smells. But our land use bylaw does require that. Does require the applicant to install an air filtration system to remove odors as an extra precaution to ensure that the use does not create odor impacts for adjacent parcels. So that is a requirement under our land use bylaw that they implement an air filtration system.
So would that be one of the conditions on the application then?
That is correct. So it's one of the conditions on the development permit.
Thank you. Are there any other questions? No. So is there a councillor that would like to make a motion? Councillor Clark?
Council approves development permit DV 21057 with the recommended conditions in accordance with attachment 6 draft DV 21-057.
Thank you for that. Are there any comments, questions, debate on the motion? None. I will ask all in favor. That is carried. Thank you very much. Moving on to 7.3 Aquatic Center Naming Sponsorship Agreement. Ms. Dreesen, come on down. Good morning.
Good morning, Madam Mayor and Council.
Welcome. Thank you.
I'm here to speak just to the naming sponsorship agreement that administration has been working on with our local group, the Aquatics Fundraising Committee. As Council is aware, a naming sponsorship campaign has been part of the major project work of the Aquatics Committee, and a major fundraising campaign includes not only donations and sponsorships, but also some in-kind contributions. With the development of the naming sponsorship agreement, however, each sponsor is provided either a 5 or a 10-year term for that naming sponsorship, depending on the amenity being sponsored. In the current agreement, however, it states that it's at the time of the signing of the agreement. And as we know, the construction won't be finished until, September, October of next year. So in fairness to those people who have already, and companies that have already contributed to the naming sponsorships, town administration and the fundraising committee would like to ensure that the naming sponsorship doesn't start until the opening of the aquatic facility. Whereas right now, the naming sponsorship agreement says upon the time of signing. And currently we have several, which is a great thing to have, several companies that have come on board as signing for the new naming sponsorships for the new aquatic facility. So because council approval is required for all of the naming sponsorship agreements, administration is asking for approval by town council to amend the existing agreement and to make amendments to the existing naming sponsorship agreements in place.
Wonderful. Thank you for that. Are there any questions for administration? No, there are no questions. Is there a council? Oh, Deputy Mayor.
I'm sorry, Madam Mayor, it doesn't cause us any particular problems, the start date. It makes sense to be there. And so it doesn't cause us any issues. Do we get the revenue earlier, sooner, or those kinds of things? I guess it's, but not that I'm worried about it.
Sure. Thank you, Councillor McGee. As far as the sponsorships, we've been receiving several of the sponsorships already. Payment is either provided. So for instance, for a 10-year sponsorship, they have a term of 5 years in which to pay the sponsorships. For a 5-year sponsorship, they pay upon signing of the agreement. So we already have quite a few funds in place from the sponsorships that have been signed up. What it will do is just means that recognizing as fairness to the sponsors, their sponsorship, their 10-year term doesn't start until the time that we open the facility. If we look at it now, that would mean that from the time of opening, some sponsors may only get 9 years of that naming sponsorship. So it really isn't fair to the naming sponsor. While there's some recognition being given to that sponsor now, because we are thanking them and providing them with a little bit of publicity with the sense that they are getting some recognition for their sponsorship now, the facility isn't ready yet. So.
Councillor Gamana?
I'll make the motion.
Would you like to make a motion?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Thank you. I'll like to make a motion that council approves the proposed amendment to the naming sponsorship agreement to reflect a commencement date for the opening date of the aquatic center. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Is there any discussion or debate on the motion? I will ask, all in favor? That is carried. Moving on to 7.4 Q3 Finance Report. Ms. Thompson, that is you. Good morning, welcome.
Good morning, thank you. All right, Q3 is already done and we're halfway through Q4, so. Let's talk about this Q3 then. You have the documents in front of you there. So the first section is just our general revenues, which includes property taxes, franchise fees, and some other admin revenue. Nothing really much to note there other than our tax revenues were lower than what we budgeted because there was several large assessment appeals and changes after budget. So that is something we can't budget for. We can't really predict, but that's what happened there. And then we move on to general administration. So the general administration revenue looks to be a little bit behind budget, but actually there's just some allocations that need to come from the other revenue at the top. So we're pretty much on trend there. And then under expenses, council expenses are down, mostly due to council development, due to COVID and all that. Council didn't do as much development conferences and such as normal that we normally do. So we're a little behind budget there or ahead of budget, I guess. And then general administration, the team has worked really hard to make sure that we spend money only as needed, just be a little bit more keen on that. And then also, because of the changes in CAOs and such, a full-time CEO didn't start, Annette was partly community services, partly administration. And so we have a few months where we went without a CEO whose wages were 100% in this category, which looks to be a little bit of savings there because of that. Then we move on to protective services. Under the police revenue, our grants haven't yet come in, and usually they've already come in at this point. We've confirmed that we're on track. We've signed the documents. I think the mayor signed those not that long ago, actually. So we should see that money soon. So that will bump that up to be actually ahead of budget. And then everything else under revenues is nothing really much to note there. When we go to expenses, the RCMP or our police, our money that we pay for our policing, the Q4, so their Q4 is June, I believe. I think it's June, right? Anyways, it's April. So their Q4 adjustments were much larger than we expected, which we can't really budget for, but it happens and it can be frustrating. So we're over budget there under the police expenses. And then fire, you know, volunteers only get paid a few times a year, so the wages will bump up a little bit under fire. But so that's the biggest change or variance you'll see there. And everything else is pretty on par for what we were expecting. And transportation, you know, you'll see the $110,000 actual year-to-dates under roads and on sidewalks. Those are the reason for that being more than what we had budgeted is because those are improvement levies and they get adjusted at year end. So when we do, yeah, I don't know how much you guys know what improvement levies or how much you want to know at this point, but we collect improvement levies with taxes and then we reallocate it to this revenue account and the auditor adjusts it at year end. So that will be about 20,000. You'll see. So we will be right on par of that. It just needs to be reallocated. Under expenses, a little bit, you know, better than we expected at this point, partially because of snow. And then the other reason being that under road, streets and sidewalks, all our WCB payments had been allocated there and they need to be reallocated to all the wage benefits accounts across our organization. So we will see that be pretty much on par by the end of the year. Although if we don't see much more snowfall, maybe we will be ahead of budget. And then utilities, water, sewer, very close to what we would have expected. Waste, we're a little behind. It's hard to know exactly what the reason for that is. One can speculate that it might be the change in our fee schedule might have had a reverse impact than what we wanted / expected, but we are a little bit behind on our revenues at the landfill. And then under expenses, we're pretty much right on par. So there's that. And then we move on to community services. You can go through, you can see very little variance there. So I'm not going to spend too much time there. The affordable housing, that gets settled at the end of the year. So we do one transfer into the town bank at the end of the year. So you see nothing in those accounts. Planning and development. So planning and development, the way this report is structured has economic development, education, everything is under this development category. So under the revenues, it's not too much to note there. Under expenses, there's a big variance in economic development. It looks like we spent a lot less money than we budgeted for. The reason for that is the energy budget. So we had quite a big budget for energy, and it's not, a lot of that hasn't been spent yet, although there is a few projects that have come in after this report that will increase that, but that is the reason there. Education, yeah, zero fee took a little longer to take off than what we had hoped. And yeah, that's about it for there. So you'll see at the bottom there, 781,000 actuals compared to what we budgeted. It was just over $1 million, and looks like savings, and it is savings, but it's not necessarily because we were trying to save. It's just projects that just didn't end up happening in the time that we expected. And moving on to parks and recreation, everything is lower there. You'll see, you can go through, revenues are lower, expenses are lower. You guessed it, COVID. And which brings us right to the end, operating contingencies. Right now, we have $43,000 sitting there. That is the bad debts that council approved for write-off. That's the only thing that's sitting in there at this time. And which brings us to the last page, which is a summary. And when you look at, you can see the actual year-to-date is 6.8 million spent expenditures, and we budgeted for our revenue, sorry. And so we have a $985,000 ahead of budget. So we're doing good. So that's all for operating. Does anyone have any questions on there?
What are we estimating our bank balance to be by the end of the year?
Oh, good question. I would think in the maybe 15 million.
15?
Yeah, 15 to maybe between 15 and 20. Reason being is that we're spending loads of money on the pool right now, right? Big expenses coming out, and a lot of our projects kind of wrap up towards the end of the year. Actually, it'll dip to an all-time low in the early spring, because that's when a lot of the 2021 projects will have their final invoices billed. And then just in time for tax revenues again in May. But yes, I will go over some more. On the next page, you'll see the bank balance and what it was at this time last year and such as well. But yes, so we do need to talk about possibly, I'm going to do a cash flow, more detailed cash flow, so we can see what the trend is for the next 6 months, and then possibly looking at maybe investing some money just to earn higher interest rates, because interest rates are just terrible right now in our bank account. And in the past, we've had some really good contracts with or agreements with RBC where we've just been able to have our money sitting in the checking account and earn loads of interest, but that's not the case right now. So I am talking to some different investment people to see what our options are. So that will come forward shortly. I have to discuss it with Robin first, but yeah.
Okay, thank you. Deputy Mayor, did you have a question?
I do, and it's a simple question. What's the headline? So if you're saying to the public this morning, giving these 3 pages of documents, what are you saying to the public?
I'm saying that it looks like we are going to end the year on budget.
So if I was wanting to extrapolate a little bit more out of I might think about here's the price, here's what COVID has done
Right.
to us or for us. And so people are expecting something from that. So you would say that. And then because of that, this is what we have. I think when I read it, we're in relatively good shape forward to the next year.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that the headline would be that administration took the challenges that came their way, with COVID and everything that came along with it, and just stuck to their budgets where possible, and just accountable to each other and to finance to, just to make sure that we don't spend more than what we're budgeted for. In regards to COVID, I think we went over this last year as well. But the Omniplex, we suffer a little bit when it comes to COVID because of loss of revenues. But at the pool, we don't. Our wages are actually, our savings and wages typically are more than our loss of revenues, which kind of sort of not quite, but almost balance each other out. So there's a cost to COVID, but it's not as significant as one might expect. Yeah, that's pretty much the short version of that. But yeah, I think that administration has done really well, and just when they're not sure if something fits into their budget, they come and talk to me, and we talk about it, and we see if there's money, where there's money, if there is, and it's been a good year for that, I think. Yeah. You're welcome.
Thank you very much. Are there any other questions?
All right, ready to move on to the financial information. So this is just so you guys can see what some of our balance sheet accounts look like. So our general receivables are everything other than tax and utilities. So we're talking event rentals, anything like cost share, billings to the county and all that kind of stuff that falls under general receivables. And it was at September 30th at 686,000. Most of that was our Q3 cost share from the county. And then also we're billing them for their share of the pool, the new aquatic center. And those invoices have all been paid up. The utility receivables, although they're slightly higher than they were at June, that's just a kind of a timing thing. They're significantly lower than they were. I forgot to put the September 30th balance in, but we were at 320,000 last September of 2020. And we're quite a bit better now. The reason we were so high last year in September was because of our deferral program. So we've kind of cleaned all that up and reported everyone that is over a certain amount to collections and everything. So we're doing our best now to kind of clean up the old receivables, and it's working well. Our tax receivables are higher than we would like them to be, and higher than they were as of September of 2020. And of course, the largest reason for that is because of the land that we were gonna go for tax sale. And that's kind of accruing taxes still, hoping that that's all settled now in the next few weeks. And then we do have some other larger delinquent accounts that we are working with. Our penalty letters have went out last week, I believe. And we made some calls to some businesses that had large outstanding taxes. So just to see if we could work with them in any way. So we are seeing some effects of the extended length of time that we have COVID. So we are seeing some effects of that now. But we are working with businesses and trying to get that under control. Under other liabilities, we have deferred revenue. That's our big account, and that's where all our revenues sit that come in, all our grant money that comes in that we have not yet applied to our project. So it kind of sits there. We had a big carrying balance this year because we were holding on to MSI money and waiting for the pool to be built. So it was larger than what you would expect from in a normal year, but a lot of that will be spent this year. And then our debenture balance, of course, increased by just about 5 million, just over 5 million. That's because our aquatic facility loan came in September. Our bank balance in September was 21 million. So you see in December of 20, and then it dipped in March, and then it increased. Several reasons why that's high. The aquatic facility loan came in. That's $5 million we got. Our small communities fund, I think that's what it stands for, grant that we are waiting on our water or our sanitary trunk, $3 million that came in October. And so our bank balance for a while there was close to $24 million, so which is good. And then under grants receivable, I had them all listed, all the ones that we kind of were expecting throughout the year, and we've received them all now. They're all in our bank. And our reserves, like I said last time, I don't adjust those throughout the year. We do those adjustments at year end once all the projects are done and we know what we've spent. And so you won't see really any change throughout the year. But once this year is done, then we'll update those and you'll see. And then our capital projects as the last page. So I'm not going to go into too much detail on all of them, but if you look, you have several that there's no money spent. The columbarium, that has money spent now that we've been invoiced for, so that will be done. And then you see the affordable housing duplex, which council ended up voting against, and then the water treatment plant land purchase and landfill house or land purchase. Those ones we just haven't gotten anywhere with, and most likely will not be done this year. What might interest you the most is the budget remaining or over. So the ones in red are indicators of being over budget. The first one being the public works equipment. And the reason for that is because there was a piece of equipment that got, Owen had money in his operating budget for and got spent out of there, but I had to reallocate it into this capital project because it's a capital expense. So not actually really over budget, I guess, is the other word for it. And then the water high lift pump station, there was a credit on an account and I didn't know it had already been applied on an old invoice. So it wasn't so much that we were over budget, well, we were over budget, but I budgeted too little for that because I was not aware that that credit had already been applied. And then some wrap up costs. We had some projects with the county that we've been discussing for years and couldn't agree on whose cost it was. And we ended up settling that earlier this year. And that's why that $172,000 a cost that we didn't budget for, that's why that's in there. So that's about it. You'll see, like I said, we'll see lots of spending in the next few months as we have mostly one large project that's being worked on, but it is a large project. So we will see lots of spending in the next month and a half on these projects. So that's all I have. Do you have any questions on capital?
Thank you very much. Are there any questions for administration? Councillor Sheriff, did you have a question?
No, I can make a motion.
Okay, I think Deputy Mayor had a question first.
Before you make the motion, Councillor Sheriffs, one of the things that you had mentioned earlier, and I forgot to ask, was the large assessment appeals. So we had, so I know that we can't budget for it, but what do we learn from an appeal like that? Like, I'm just imagining that it's something that we can't do that anymore, or, you know, I don't know. Tell me a little bit about that.
So, assessment appeals, a few, I think one or two occasions in this year were because the use of the building had actually changed, which changes the assessment value of a building. So, the building by Cal's. Yeah, so it was in there as a hotel, I believe, and it's not a hotel, so that changes it. That's one example. So really, it's really hard to predict and or budget or for these types of things because we don't do the assessments in-house, obviously. And so we don't go through and let's say study all the assessments and try to audit them before we send notices out. So I don't really know what to say, like what we've learned from this other than hope it doesn't, I don't know. Yeah.
Maybe I can weigh in. So my experience dealing with these types of assessment complaints is that there is certainly a category of them that come from the type of situation Alvera just mentioned, where something has changed with the property that changed its assessment. And so those adjustments are made. There's not a ton that can be done there. It's just information that came forward after the assessment was originally finalized at the end of February. If there are complaints that lead to the need for a process change, the contracted assessor will evaluate those and adjust their processes accordingly. They are rather rare, but they do happen, and that is the process, is that the assessor, if they've discovered something in the valuation that's been brought to question by a series of complaints, they'll make adjustments for it.
And just to wrap it, I think we have an assessment appeal board, but these don't go before the board, do they?
So they do if the assessor and the company bringing forward the complaint or individual, if they can't come to an agreement, then it moves forward. So we were actually expecting a few to go in front of the ARB, but they ended up settling. So our assessor was able to agree on an amount that both parties agreed with, so it never went to the appeal board. Yeah.
Thank you. Any other questions? Councillor Sheriff, would you like to make a motion?
I'd like to make a motion that council accept Q3 finance report as information.
Thank you. Are there any questions, discussions, or debate on the motion? None seeing, I will ask all in favor. That is carried. Right before we move into a 7.5, I'm going to just briefly call a 5-minute break just to give council a little bit of clarity on something. Okay? So I will call a brief break at 11:16, and 5 minutes. We will return to the council chambers, maybe just in my office quickly. order at 11:33 a.m. It is still chilly in here and still a little bit hard to function. So we're moving on to decision item 7.5. And today that we have an RFD for proposal and background, an employment agreement between the town of Drayton Valley and Robert Osmond is required in order for the role of Chief Administrative Officer to be filled. With the approval of the employment agreement between the town of Drayton Valley and Robert Osmond, council must pass a resolution to formally appoint Robert Osmond to the position of Chief Administrative Officer for the town of Drayton Valley. So I will just kind of go through the implications. 2.1, financial implication is the 2021 and 2022 budget allows for the anticipated salary requirements as stipulated in the employment agreement. The town and Robert Osmond have agreed to enter into this agreement to set out the terms and conditions of employment between the town and Robert Osmond as Chief Administrative Officer. As per the Municipal Government Act, every council must appoint one or more persons to carry out the powers, duties, and functions of the position of Chief Administrative Officer. As per the MGA, the Town of Drayton Valley CAO bylaw 2009-12-A, the Chief Administrative Officer is obligated to abide by the responsibilities and administrative duties set out by this act and bylaw. As per the MGA in the Town of Drayton Valley CAO bylaw 2009-12-A, the Chief Administrative Officer is obligated to abide by the responsibilities and administrative duties set out by the Act and by the bylaw. The Communication Department will ensure a communication piece is distributed as per the CAO's request and preference. The Town of Drayton Valley Council are happy and excited to have the role of Chief Administrative Officer filled today, and I will be asking for 2 motions on the table. So I think that if I can ask for a member of council first to give a motion for the, what is this one? For the employment agreement, or no, sorry. For the employment agreement between the Town of Drayton Valley and Robert is required. So if I can get a motion for that one first. Councillor Sheriffs?
I said the motion that the council approve the employment agreement between the town of Drayton Valley and Robert Osmond effective November 24th, 2021.
Thank you for that. Are there any questions, discussion, or debate on the motion? I will ask all in favor. That is carried. And may I get a councillor to make a motion for the second? Deputy Mayor?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I make a motion that council appoint Robert Osmond as the Chief Administrative Officer for the Town of Drayton Valley pursuant to the Chief Administrative Officer Bylaw 209-12-8, effective November 24th, 2021.
Thank you very much for that. Are there any questions, discussion, or debate on the motion? I just want to say that on behalf of council, we're very excited and very excited, I think, to have you no longer as the interim and welcome you aboard as the CAO here today. And the motion being made, I think that I'm going to call it, and then everybody might have a few comments after that as well. So I will call it. All in favor? That is carried. Yay, we're very excited. Thank you very much. Welcome permanently aboard, and yeah, just looking forward to the next few years of working together and just seeing some of your ideas come to fruition and working on the projects and all of our ideas moving into budget. And I think it just makes it a little bit easier now that we know that you're going to be here for the long run. I think that everybody's really excited about that. So welcome aboard.
Yeah, indeed, Madam Mayor, I think I would echo those comments. One of the things that's interesting is in the process of working together, we grow and we learn from each other. And over the last couple of months, that's really been helpful for me, and it makes my decision at this table much easier. And do appreciate the value that you will bring to the table and to this community.
I want to say personally, congratulations. And Bill Ballas, Councillor Bill Ballas is at RMA, and he sent a text saying, congratulations. Just passing that on.
Very excited. Okay, we will move on to our department reports. 8.1, planning
Madam
and
Mayor.
development. Oh,
If-
sorry.
If I could just have a
I cut you
moment.
off.
I certainly want to thank council for the opportunity, the support in the short time that I've been here, getting to know this team and the organization. Certainly very excited about the things we're going to do together. I'm very grateful for the opportunity and the confidence that council has shown in my ability in my short time here. So thank you very much for this appointment, and I look forward to the great things to come. Thank you.
Thank you. Keep moving on to 8.1, planning and development.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I don't have a lot to report for the planning report this meeting. At the last council meeting, when we were discussing the shelter pods, council had asked that planning get up and ahead of this proposal, so we did that. And so we've listed a sort of a process to accommodate that proposed development, which I think we were discussing a little later on today in the GMP meeting. Following that, planning's been continuing to talk with Mr. Willett on his questions on the transportation impact assessment on the HW pickup school. We've got responses from Alberta Infrastructure, and so I think he's happy with that we've taken the time to address his questions and listen to his concerns and comments. So he said he's happy with the process and that the development permit has been issued. And finally, I had attended my first technical North Saskatchewan Watershed Association meeting on November 4th. There's a lot of good and interesting information and context, so I hope to get up to speed very quickly with them. And that concludes the planning report, Madam Chairman.
Thank you for that. Are there any questions? No. Thank you very much. Moving on to 8.2, infrastructure and engineering. Mr. Nolnick. It's getting warmer in here.
Hello again, Madam Mayor and
Hello.
Council. So for the landfill, the tender is now closed as of last Friday. There are two proponents, the same proponents, so we'll go through the selection criteria again and see where we end up there. Free tipping days were again offered November 5th to the 7th. Never heard anything to the contrary. Heard that it went quite well, so that was great. New fence at the recycling center has been vandalized a few times, and administration is being very diligent in keeping it repaired and up to spec. Utilities, by now, hydrant winterizing is now complete. And we spent a little bit of time rehabilitating the area where all of the septic trucks dump into one of our settling lagoons, just because there's been a bit of problems with settling and washouts and that. So we did some signage, we did the pad, stuff like that to make it a little bit safer for our contractors and a little more attractive to try to bring this work back. For Public Works, I mean, I say the crew and fleet are winter operations ready. Well, they've already been put to the test before by the time council has a chance to read this. And also, we have working phone and internet, not a penultimate solution with what the IT department is facing right now, but it is workable enough that Public Works is moving over there starting today. So by Friday, we should have it functional. Engineering, getting cost estimates for the preliminary design for the next landfill cell that will have to be constructed in the next, or in about 2 years' time. So we're currently getting estimates on that. And for facilities maintenance, he's just helping Public Works doing the final renos necessary. And he is still working on the building maintenance report that he'll present to council during deliberations for the facility building maintenance and any sort of forecasted projects that need to be done. So I'm open to any questions if council has.
Perfect. Thank you for that. Are there any questions? Councilor Gumana?
Thank you. First of all, congratulations on your new department's new home. Hopefully we'll get a tour soon enough. So I was at the new recycling area. You know, it works very well. You can go in and come out. But one thing I noticed, or I didn't notice, is that I didn't see a camera there. So I'm not sure if it's there and I didn't see it, or if we are working on getting a camera.
Thank you, Councillor Gumana. We are working on that. We're just waiting for some cameras to come in and we'll get that fashioned up for sure. So.
Deputy Mayor?
The next piece to that, though, would be is that if we have ongoing fence cutting, I don't know if the camera goes out that far, or is there any way that we can discourage it? When because it wasn't a day that I was there, and I saw the fence cut and yarded wide enough to get a cart through the whole 9 yards. I just thought, oh my goodness, that didn't take long. I don't know what you do.
Yeah, thank you, Deputy Mayor McGee. It is definitely frustrating because like Mayor Dodds asked me here in the last day or so, like, are those gates open? Those gates are open 24/7. So I'm not understanding why they need to cut, because there is access. I mean, there are options. One of them could be much like, say, the school grounds, where you have a partition offset, so you can kind of snake through. We could look at that. Unfortunately, I just don't know why they can't go around, but I mean, administration can kind of look into this and see what we can do. That's about as much as I can offer you, Deputy Mayor.
Can you report on any changes since we've moved the recycling bin? Like, is there an increase, decrease? Have you been hearing comments back or anything since we've moved it?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yeah, surprisingly, I would say 95% of the comments are very positive. They look at it as a one-stop shop. You know, they swing by with the recycling, and if they have anything that they have to tip, then they can just head across the scales. I've heard that people are liking the fact, I mean, it's kind of a double-edged sword. They like it out there because the homeless traffic on Industrial Road has kind of cut down. Yeah, so far it's been quite positive. There's been less illegal dumping from what's been reported to myself. Nobody's going to the old grounds, so it seems to be working quite well from what I've been hearing.
Good to hear. And how do you think it's going since we've taken over the scale house? Is it too early to kind of tell there, or?
A bit too early. I mean, with any new software system and different processes, there's a couple kinks in that to kind of work out, but I think for the most part, we've got it fairly worked out. I know with the finance department, it'll be a lot easier to reconcile everything since we're the ones doing it now. So yeah, I think it was a good decision for the town to take on in that regard.
Good, fantastic. And then just one last question. In regards to the new building, congratulations, that's exciting. Can you just remind me again what is happening with the land and the buildings that we lease, and then the building that we own as well?
So the land, or the building that we lease, that has been already given up. We vacated. We're no more there. The West Yard, we still have a bit of stuff outside, just because now we're in the season. It's not the greatest time to move. So in the spring, we'll be looking at moving it when we have our seasonals here to help with a little bit of heavy lifting. And with the old Public Works building, the shop across from the RCMP station, they're working on vacating and getting that cleaned out to be entirely out of there into the new location. So yeah, very exciting.
Yes, very. Well, thank you very much. Moving on to 8.3, Community Services and FCSS. Oh, there you are. Good morning.
Good morning.
I was just going to call your name.
Thank you for having me. On behalf of the Community Service Department, I'd like to congratulate Robert on his new appointment. Congratulations. Not too much on the Community Service Department part. ECDC would just wanted to make council aware that Vermilion Energy sponsored $10,000 to go through the nutrition program at the ECDC. This is the 12th year that they have sponsored programming there. So they want to give them a shout out, and rightfully so. So that helps them a long way. Also, just a couple things that the home support program is currently providing support to 38 seniors who reside in the county and in town. And the Snow Angels program has 21 seniors, and they've had a good response for getting volunteers to help out with that program, which is basically people volunteering to go shovel sidewalks for seniors. So, and I believe the rest, Lola kind of wanted me to wait. I know you guys will be talking about the rest of it at GNP later on. So yeah, I'm not sure if there's any questions or if I can answer them if there is, but.
Wonderful. Thank you very much for that. Are there any questions? Deputy Mayor.
Just one. Interestingly enough, the council spent the entire day at the curling rink yesterday. And one of the things that we noticed is that there's really nobody in that facility all day, whether that's the arena, other arena, curling rink. And so we began to think about that because that's when things happen. And you think, well, what? Is there nobody here? What's going on? And there was some discussion about senior curling, kids from the schools, pack them in there. What are we talking, right? Come on. And I think the sense is that we put into our sort of things to do is to maximize our use of our facilities in whatever way that is. So I don't know, it's an off the cuff question, but just tell me what you're thinking about in that area.
Well, yeah, and that's an awesome question. I thank you for that question, Deputy Mayor McGee. Like I told Annette before, and I said in my interviews, and I talked to Mr. Osmond about it. I've got big plans. I've got lots of big plans for not only for the curling rink, the skating rinks, but the ball diamonds, the skate park, the pump track. Not only I know Mr. Brad Kelly and their group wants to turn this into a hub for MMA. I want to turn this into a hub for ball tournaments, slow pitch tournaments, minor ball, minor hockey. I want to have things going on here all the time, filling the hotels, filling the restaurants. So just a matter now that I've got through all the stuff with raising the rates and rebate programs and vaccine passports and stuff like that. Now I can focus on, I believe, what I was maybe brought in here to do is to focus on getting all our facilities max capacity and getting people into town and using them all much more. So thank you for that question.
Your worship, there's your answer.
Nice. Thank you very much. That makes me very happy.
I'm excited. That's what
Yeah,
I
that is exciting, right? And we were commenting exactly what Tom said yesterday, sitting there, right? And we're in that building and there's no activity, there's nothing. So it's like, where's the senior? Where's the kids? This should be crazy. It should be busy, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So no, that's wonderful to hear. Looking forward to that.
Me too.
Councillor Gamana?
Thank you. And thank you, Mr. Starnes, for that update, as well as this looking forward for those exciting plans. Just an extension to Deputy Mayor's comments there. How are we doing with especially the senior programs, Aquasize, and some programs that we had in Omniplex, the way that we are operating right now, right? I'm not sure if that's part of, the flow that we don't have many utilizing our services there. So, in your opinion, have that affected the usage, and is there ways that we can improve that?
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Gamana. Yeah, we've started our fitness center manager, Heather Pollard, has started the senior programs. So we had quite a few in there, and you guys obviously missed them yesterday, but they were in there yesterday. I don't know, I would say half of the walking track was filled with seniors, and she was leading them on in their stretches, Matt. And but I think that just started, and I think we're a month and a half behind where we usually would be. I know, talking to Lana real briefly, I can't really speak to the Aquasize or much that's been going on at the pool, but I believe that their numbers are catching back up now. But yeah, we have schools coming in the new year to use the curling rink. I think once or twice. We're going to try to get them to use it more, and to use the skating rink and the outdoor rink. But yeah, we have to definitely reach out to the schools and see how we can get them there. I mean, we've got the one right beside us. It's getting the other one's bus there. So we have to work with them and see what we can do to help them out, and how we can get them obviously to use the facilities more. But as far as COVID, I mean, it's been tough with all the closures, opening, closing. I mean, I think we're set now. I think we're gonna be open. I don't think we're gonna get shut down again, but we will see.
And what's happening with the outdoor rink? Are the boards still down?
Yes, so the boards, and it's funny you ask, because I've got 3 questions on that this morning. Yeah, the boards are being replaced. They should be done by the end of next week. And then I anticipate after the new boards are put back up, then we'll start making ice. I mean, we're kind of get a reprieve because it's supposed to be nice well, not this morning, but it's supposed to be nice over the next week or so. So we can get the new boards up and start thinking about putting the ice in, because I know people are getting antsy for it.
Perfect. Thank you. Are there any other questions? No? Thank you very much for that.
Thank you.
Moving on to 8.4, enterprise and growth. Mr. Bijor, this is you. Good morning. Welcome.
Good morning, Your Worship, Mayor Dodds and Council. The enterprise and growth, we at this point in time, we're finalizing the strategic planning with the support of our new appointed CEO. Welcome, Rob. We're going to incorporate all the work that we've done in the past, from education to economic development to the sustainability, and the projects. Basically, we're saying here that we're banking on all the networking and support that we have seen from the business industry, from the Chamber of Commerce, and from the associations in town, and from the tourism associations. One big but key element to it is that we have made several partnership with the economic development from the county, and we're got to a point where we're the big brother, big sisters group. So we're tackling all the perspective from the education point and careers as the new selected endeavors chosen by the council at yesterday's development. And we're going to be pursuing that to the extent where we heard numerous times issues to look at the airport, to look at education, to look at the hemp industry, to look at Bitcoin, to look at solar plants. So all that will be incorporated. Everything that we worked in the past will be brought into the strategic plan, and with the guidance of our new CEO, we're going to have that presented and brought up to council. That will be all for today's enterprise and growth.
Thank you very much for that. Are there any questions? Could you maybe just give an update at last night's open house for education? How many students or how many people ended up attending? Do you know that yet?
No, I unfortunately, I wasn't at the last night event. I apologize, but I'd be able to be bringing that information to you.
Perfect. Yeah, I know that a few of us were there till, I'm not sure what time it was, but 6 or so. Yeah. So it was nice because there was that continual flow of people coming in. So I was a little bit worried with COVID, but it was nice to see people rolling in. So yeah, it'd be nice just to know what the numbers were for last night for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll be able to bring that to you.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Yep.
Thank you. Moving on to Protective and Emergency Services 8.5. Mr. Thompson. Good morning.
Good morning, Madam Mayor and Council. Just like to go through the stats, fire department stats for September and October. I know this is Councillor McGee's favorite part. In terms of September, we responded to 36 calls for service, 6 of which were fire calls. 2 structure fires. One was a non-dwelling structure, a garage that was fully involved. The other one was a little more significant. It was a fire at Weyerhaeuser in their waste bin section. Our crews did a very good job working with their staff to bring that under control, because that could have got ugly quick. So I'm glad that we got that sorted out pretty fast. We also responded to one grass fire, which was a small grass fire because of power lines that were on the ground. And we also responded to 3 vehicle fires. As Sergeant Matthews alluded to, we had a significant number of stolen vehicles. Unfortunately, sometimes they end up being burnt. So we had 2 of them that were fully involved and were burnt up. The other one was a truck that caught fire, and the owner was on scene. It seemed to be some sort of an electrical issue that caught the vehicle on fire. In terms of motor vehicle collisions, we responded to 5 in total, 3 of which were single vehicle collisions. One was a semi that jackknifed after hitting a deer. Another one was a rollover incident after striking another deer on the highway. And then we had a car that just slid off and went into the ditch. We also responded to 2 motor vehicle collisions. One was at the McDonald's intersection. Fortunately, there was minor injuries that were reported after that one. And again, once again, our favorite intersection, the Boston Pizza intersection, we had another collision there, resulted in some serious injuries. And as I mentioned to the previous council, I think it would be wise if we could send a letter to Alberta Transportation asking for them to post dangerous intersection signs at that intersection, because we get a significant number of motor vehicle collisions there, and the injuries are quite serious most of the time. So if we could do that, that would be appreciated. In terms of rescue calls, we responded to one. It was kind of a funny one. A cat was stuck in a vent, and so we had to coax the cat out of the vent and it ended up being a successful outcome. So all the family was happy and everybody went home happy. In terms of alarm calls, we responded to 16 in total. 8 of them were residential. Some of them, or many of them, are in regards to alarm systems and people not understanding their alarm system and how it works. A lot of times what happens, whether it's a shower, steam, or whether it's burnt food, it sets the alarm off and people get their towels out and they start waving it, and it immediately stops the thing from beeping. But what they don't realize is it also sends a message to the security system, who calls us. So we end up at the front door, and so it causes a few problems. So I'm just encouraging people to make sure they contact their alarm company after they have one of those incidents, so that we're not dispatched to go and investigate. We also respond to 3 incidents at the hospital, all of which involved patients that were pulling the pull stations, which set the alarms off in the hospital. We also had one at the school, which was a similar situation, and a pull station was pulled by a young child. I didn't recognize that that it sets the alarm off when you pull that little red handle. And so they had a quick education on that. We also responded to an alarm at an apartment where an individual had started cooking food and then promptly fell asleep and set their food on fire and caused a whole bunch of smoke in the building. So we went there to help them with that. We also responded to our local RCMP detachment for 2 alarms there. Finally, they have their alarm system fixed, so we've got that sorted out, but they've gone through a rough stretch there trying to get that sorted out, but I think we've got it sorted out now. And then we also responded to an alarm at one of the retirement homes where it was triggered because the people were working with on the system itself. In terms of assisting other agencies, respond to 4 in total, 3 of which were assisting EMS. One was a cardiac arrest. One was a breathing issue. Again, it involved a COVID case. We also helped EMS with a patient that locked themselves into a bedroom, and so they needed access to help that patient, so we helped them with that. We also then helped the RCMP, and they had an incident in which a chemical tote was dropped off of a truck and made a mess on the road, and so we were able to go and clean that up and help them with that one. In terms of miscellaneous calls, respond to 4 in total. One was to assist a patient that drove not on purpose, but drove their bike into a ditch and ended up with some pretty serious injuries, so we helped them with that. We also had a smoke complaint and that came from a person that was welding in their garage and someone thought their garage was on fire. So we went to respond to that one. We also had a carbon monoxide leak as a result of a boiler that was malfunctioning. And then we had one that was a backyard fire where the individuals decided to throw a car battery into the fire, which caused a big explosion and it caused some significant issues there. Unfortunately, the people that were there also were quite abusive to my staff, which resulted in the RCMP attending that situation. So we ended up with 36 calls for the month of September. Moving on into October, we responded to 40 calls for service. 9 of them which were fire calls. One was a structure fire, and that was the Reeves house that went up in smoke. Unfortunately, it was fully involved by the time we got there, so we couldn't do a whole lot to assist with that one other than put it out once it was on the ground. We responded to 4 rubbish and grass fires. 3 of them were caused by the homeless around the dump area, which is becoming a continuous problem for us. We also responded to an individual that decided to burn garbage in their backyard, so we had to deal with that one as well. We also responded to 4 vehicle fires. Again, 2 of them were stolen vehicles that were torched. We also had an RV trailer that had caught fire, and we also responded to a small vehicle with a small engine fire. In terms of motor vehicle collisions, I responded to 4, 2 of which were single vehicle collisions. One vehicle had struck a moose and resulted in some serious injuries in that incident. The other one slid off the road and went into the ditch, which resulted in minor injuries. We also responded to 2 vehicle motor vehicle collisions, one of which was a 2 vehicle collision in town, which resulted in minor injuries. We then also had a head-on collision, which resulted in 3 fatalities in that all the occupants that were in those vehicles were killed in that collision. In terms of rescue calls, respond to 1, which was a large dog that had fallen into a ravine, and the owners called us to assist them get the dog out. It was over 200 pounds. It was a big St. Bernard dog, so it needed a lot of lifting and a bit of oomph to get the dog back out of the ravine and back onto the trail. In terms of alarm calls, respond to 17 in total, 15 of which were residential alarms. Many of those were repeat offenders, so they were being dealt with through our false alarm bylaw. And we had 2 business alarms. One was an accidental activation. The other one was the result of a low battery incident. Assisting other agencies, respond to 5 in total. One was a patient that had fainted and needed assistance. We also had another patient that was suffering from cardiac arrest. We had a drug overdose, which required us to administer Narcan and save the patient basically, which was a win. We also had another COVID case with serious breathing issues. And then we had a patient that had fallen and struck their head. So we assisted with that one. In terms of miscellaneous calls, responded to 4 in total. One was a gas odor. Was called in by a business. It turned out that it was condensate that had leaked off of a truck, which created the gas odor smell. We had a smoke complaint at the Aspen Waste Center. Again, it's our homeless population. By the time we got there, though, the situation was dealt with, so we didn't have to do anything with that one. We also had a smoke complaint in regards to a flare stack. So people saw this large black smoke, and it turned out it was a flare stack. And then we also ended up one that was rather unusual, where we were called to a location. When we arrived on location, it was a motor vehicle collision, but there was no motor vehicle collision there. What had happened was dispatch had dispatched the wrong fire department. The actual collision was actually in Athabasca. It wasn't in the Drayton Valley area. Consequently, they're now doing an internal review as to why that happened. So that doesn't happen again. And that brought us to a total of 40 calls for service. Welcome to council's questions.
Wow, thank you very much. It's been busy.
It's been really busy. Yeah.
Are there any questions? Councillor Gavana?
Thank you. I'm sorry, this question may have been asked before and could be a lame question, but when you report it, it seems like there's some false alarms and accidents that not equate to an emergency and all that. So is there a way in the process that we can triage what's going on and then before we dispatch, or how does that process work?
We try to do that as much as possible. Unfortunately, for a false alarm, we always have to treat it like it's the real deal, because we don't want to show up with a pickup truck and then have the actual house on fire, which would get us into some serious problems. So we always have to ramp up for the real deal. A lot of the way we deal with that is through our bylaw, which is we usually send a letter of notice warning them that next time you're going to get fined, and if we get repeat offenders, we start finding them. So that's generally how we deal with those calls.
Deputy Mayor?
Thomas, I have a couple of thoughts. The first one is burned out vehicles. So the flavor of the day is to burn them out. Does that create significant danger, or you just now have to deal with it? How does that all work? I just don't quite get that.
There's always risk anytime there's a vehicle that's lit on fire. There's obviously tires exploding and stuff like that. Some of the problem too, we don't know what is in the vehicle. We've had situations where we've had explosives, different things inside the vehicle, which creates more of a hazard for us. However, we are trained to deal with it, and we've become very effective. I don't mean to sound negative, but we're actually very good at it because we get a lot of them. We do have the proper safety equipment and training to effectively deal with them, so we're pretty efficient in our extinguishment of those fires.
And generally, if I'm going to burn the vehicle, I'm on a lease road, or I'm not in a neighborhood or anything.
No, we've had several in town where people have thrown Molotov cocktails on the vehicle and it torches it up. So it's been in town, it's been out in the county, it's been all over the place.
The other thing that you mentioned was COVID cases. I'm concerned a little bit about the separation between the communities, and so we have people staying much longer at home, not wanting to go to the hospital, knowing full well that they should be, but they're staying at home. Is that would you read it that way?
100%. That's pretty much exactly what's happening. People aren't going to the hospital soon enough, and consequently, they get to a point where they need medical intervention to get them to the hospital.
All right. The last piece I wanted to talk about is the EMS arrived on scene first for 2 out of 5 calls. What does that mean to us?
So basically what that means is the fire department arrived on scene. Out of the 5 calls that we had for medical, 3 of them, the fire department arrived first and began medical intervention before EMS arrived on scene. So in essence, what happens there is EMS is just not available at that point in time. So they're either on another call or they are doing a transfer. And we see that a lot. It's nothing new that to this community or other communities. We've had this been going on for years now.
And lastly, I think when you're dealing with motor vehicle deaths, we have to sort of understand what your people are faced with, right? And I hope we do, and I hope we empathetic to that as you are.
Yeah, thank you. Those types of incidents are always difficult to deal with. We do have in-house measures, intervention programs and stuff that we work with our staff to make sure that they go home not only physically safe, but also mentally safe as well.
That's good to hear. Councillor Clark?
Thank you. You mentioned Highway 22 VPs, and probably similar to 50th Avenue and Highway 22, we probably get quite a few accidents there. Now, You mentioned something about signage. Is there anything else you think potentially could help with that? Is it more attention from the town in terms of sanding? Is it reducing speed limits? Is there anything else you can do?
No, the one in Boston Pizza, and I've brought this forward to council before, the big issue is people coming from north to south on that. So they're coming into town and they turn left. And because of just the way the intersection is designed, if somebody is in the left turning lane on the other side, you can't see traffic coming. So a lot of people, they turn left into the traffic and just because they can't see it. So that's a lot of the issues there. We don't have a lot of issues in terms of weather, like the sanding and everything is done properly. There's no issues there. It's just pretty much the design of the intersection that causes a problem. And that's not on the town per se, that's more on Alberta Transportation.
Owen?
Yeah.
Okay, so the other piece of that is who can take that away? Rob, I'm assuming you've written that down a bit.
And would that be Alberta Transportation too? Oh, that would be okay. MCON? Is that E or M?
E. Yeah.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you very much for that.
Thank you.
Moving on to 8.6, Corporate Services and Finance. Ms. Thompson.
It's me again. Okay. So we are currently working on updating our fee schedule and making sure that all areas that need to be cost recovery are in a cost recovery. And we're also working on the 10-year capital budget, so long-term planning to make sure that our forecasting is up to date for council decision-making purposes and administration decision-making purposes as well. Grants and alternate funding sources. So we're currently working on finding all grants that town operating or capital projects would qualify for. We're preparing for a meeting with Municipal Affairs to talk about MSI and what the new funding structure will look like. And then also Owen and I are meeting with a grant writing company or grant match, I think it's called, tomorrow to see if this is a resource that we could use where somebody would look for and write our grants for us. And because we know that it's crucial at this point that we're at right now, that we look for funding sources that we haven't previously used. And then the last thing that is on my list, other than budget, of course, is cash flow projections and deciding on a recommendation for investing funds to earn additional interest.
Perfect. Thank
Any
you. Are there any questions? Councilor Gramana.
Thank you. I should have asked this from Owen, but about the dump site and then the new software, and we had different fees for different areas, town, outside of town and then beyond. Have that been implemented there as well?
Are we talking the landfill? Is that what you're talking about?
Landfill, yes.
The split fee schedule?
Right.
Yeah, that was implemented on May 6th or whichever day we passed a fee schedule for 2022. Yeah. And we have seen some decreased revenues because of it, I think. I mean, Owen could speak to that a little bit more, but yeah, the tonnage is down. So we don't know where the garbage is going, but yeah, so we'll talk about that a little bit further when we talk about fee schedule as all the general managers and the CEO are meeting tomorrow to talk about the fee schedule in a bit more. So that's going to come across, and we might have a recommendation for council. I'm not sure, but that's how we're seeing the effect right now.
Okay, thank you very much. Moving on to CAO report. Mr. Osmond.
Thank you very much. So I had a couple of things I wanted to bring to council's attention. You may have noticed from the agenda for council this morning and GNP that the department and division reporting has had some changes. If you didn't, that's okay. They're hard to notice. We did consolidate. There were a couple of departments that had reporting in both the council and GMP meetings, which meant they were providing update reports to council twice in one day. So we've consolidated them in one meeting or the other. I also had a conversation with our safety officer, Shauna, about her update. And what we decided was that a significant portion of the work she does involving investigations and things like that is not suitable for a public forum. And so what we decided was that if she had something that needed to be shared with council, we would add her to the list of reports, but we would not have her as a standing item at every meeting. So, we made those changes just for efficiencies and making sure that we had the right people at the right meetings and we weren't duplicating work. I did want to discuss with council that there were 2 items that didn't make the agenda today. The first one was the council committee's terms of references. So that project is proceeding. I do have first drafts of the terms of references for those committees, but they need some more work before they're ready to come to council. So they didn't make the agenda today. I hope to wrap that up really shortly and be able to bring them to our next meeting. The other piece was that the Combative Sports Commission bylaw, following the public hearing and following our last meeting, there were some questions posed to administration to get some more information to council. Administration hasn't finished gathering that information. So that's why the Combative Sports bylaw was not on the agenda today for second and third reading. We want to make sure that we have all the information that council's requested before we bring that item back. So just an update that those 2 projects are still very much front of mind. They're in progress. They were just not complete for this meeting. I don't have any other items for my update this afternoon other than exciting news on the CAO front. And so if there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Thank you for that. Are there any questions? Seeing no questions, thank you very much. Moving on to our council reports. Councillor Gamana? Yeah.
Good, thank you. No, thank you. Yeah, it's of course the first week after had a few meetings and all that. First, the orientation on the 4th and the Remembrance Day at the 11th. I had the opportunity to represent Rotary Club and now right at the Remembrance Day. So it was great to see the event. It was such a success, and we had a good turnout there as well. On the 16th, AUMA, or now it's the Alberta Municipalities Conference. I think it was great to be at there face-to-face. It has a good value to network, communicate, and also to get to know some of the old, elected officials there as well as new. It was surprised to see that there's about 50% of turnover there, 50-50. So it was great to make those connections. Also, as well, to talk to a few ministers there, Minister of Transportation, as well as a few other. So on top of that, I think the main event was on Tuesday night and Thursday night. So we had council bonding, and that's very important as well. So to get to know each other, to understand where everybody's coming from, and to be more comfortable around each other as well. So that was very important in my mind. Other than that, yesterday was a busy day. We had this strategic planning from 9 to 4. And then we had the open house after that for the education. It was a good turnout there as well. And good to see that all the partners of the education was there, and the community, the students, potential students coming there and then getting information as well. Then we had the Pembina Fish and Recruitment meeting after that as well. So it was a busy day. That's it from me. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Councillor Clark.
Ditto for most of that stuff. The only thing I'll add is I do have time scheduled with Mark Smith on Friday. It was originally to chat about the MAP program, but considering I have some news on that, I don't think we need to do that. However, I think it might be smart to maybe take his time anyway.
Sure.
So we can chat about that after, but that's all I had in addition to what Amila, his laundry list.
Thank you very much for that. Councillor Evans is not here. Moving on to Councillor Sheriff.
So regarding AUMA, it was my first time attending that event and it was great. It was definitely team building and met a lot of very, very interesting people. Had a Zoom meeting with Eagle Point Blue Rapids Committee and that was really great. They're looking into some events and adult ski lessons and just to bring people into the community. That was really good. And looking forward to going to RMA later on today and spending 2 days learning about that.
Thank you very much for that. Deputy Mayor McGee.
I think, as Councillor Clark suggests, ditto on the AUMA and those things. But what I would say, it's amazing what we don't know, right? I think it's when we gather together and we are sharing what we do know. It's just amazing what we don't know. An example is yesterday at the education function. Our community learning just needs space. All right, let's figure that out, right? Let's fill up the skating rinks. Let's do that, right? And then another piece that where we may be able to be helpful politically is that they somehow, in the world of, I don't know whether it's education or whether it's Alberta Health Services, they've raised the level of English. So the ESL program was a 5 and now it's a 7. So we have a number of people who are unable to become caregivers in our community because they raise the bar and that care doesn't take language. It's just, it takes care. So I left with some work and we'll work on that. I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that. So on November 11th, I had the privilege of my very first wreath laying as mayor. I know that the Remembrance Day ceremony has been a longstanding tradition in the community, so I was very, very pleased to be part of that. And then a few days later, I attended the arm wrestling competition through Buggy Arm Wrestling. They're a new organization that have started in the community, and it's wonderful to see them up and running. I had the privilege of giving medals out to some of the contestants there, so it was really nice to see little kids to grown adults, and there was one gentleman that still holds the belt in Alberta for that, so maybe that's where my inspiration came from. And so yeah, it was nice to see that. And they have another competition coming up on December 12th, so it's great to see another recreation and sporting opportunity happening here in our community, and I'd like to welcome them and good luck on everything that they're doing. Of course, attended AUMA, which is always a pleasure. It's nice to see everybody face to face. It's been a long time and a lot of new faces. And as Councillor Gaman had said, it's a great opportunity for team building and getting to know a new council and things like that. It's always a good time, and connecting with ministers and other levels of government is always great. We did our strategic planning yesterday, which was great. We have some work ahead of us and a vision set. So very excited to put that into play and move forward. And then the open house was nice to see last night, all the institutes that were there and students coming in and people eager to learn. Of course, we do have some homework. One of the things, Alberta Health Services, and maybe that's something we'll talk to Mark about on Friday. We're still waiting on our lab approval. So we have a large number of students there that are eager to start. And we were really hoping that we would have kicked off in September, and now it's looking more a little bit like January. So we need to, I think, push there to get that going. And then, of course, today is our council meeting, and we've appointed a new CAO. So congratulations again. I've had the pleasure of working with you over the last couple months and very pleased to be working alongside of you. Very excited to hear your ideas and just listening to administration and just seeing the positivity within the organization. And I'm feeling, that it's going to be a great 4 years. And I'm just really excited and looking forward to where this takes us and just working together as a team. Just very exciting. So thank you, everyone. Moving on to information items. We have 10.1 EPBR minutes, 10.2 Drayton Valley, Brazeau County Fire Station stats, October and September 2021, 10.3 Drayton Valley RCMP stats, October 2021. Can I get a motion to accept these as information? Councillor Gamana? All in favor? That is carried, and we will adjourn the meeting at 12:28 p.m.